Grace Miller thought back to that scene from years ago, the corners of her mouth tilting up into a sweet smile. Influenced by that very incident, her father, George Miller, had later sent her to learn self-defense and judo, and she had taken to it with surprising enthusiasm. Her only thought back then was that she never wanted to be bullied by boys again, and that one day, it would be her turn to protect Ethan Ford. Since mastering judo, she had almost never lost a fight. Occasionally, she even helped Ethan beat up bullies. In school, no one dared to mess with them. Why has this guy kept these clothes all this time? He must have kept them as a souvenir. Grace clutched the old clothes, a wave of warmth washing over her heart. She placed the clothes back in their spot and found a set of loose pajamas, intending to change. She took off her jacket, checked her makeup in the mirror to ensure it hadn't smudged, and ran a comb through her hair. Once smooth, she twisted her hair up into a cute, messy bun. Done with her hair, she turned to change her clothes. She had just taken off her top when the door suddenly swung open. "Gracie, I'm back." Ethan's voice rang out. Instinctively, she crossed her arms over her chest and spun her back to him, her cheeks flushing crimson. "You're back so soon." From behind, Ethan caught a glimpse of her smooth, porcelain white back. He almost had a nosebleed on the spot, staring blankly for a moment, his brain short-circuiting. "Ethan, you jerk! Why are you so fast? Turn around, right now." Ethan kept a straight face, though his voice wavered. "Grace Miller, that is slander. What is slander? Since when am I fast? I last at least an hour, okay?" "Grace." "Oh my God, what hour? Just turn around, I need a change." Grace stammered, mortified. Ethan chuckled low in his throat, turned sideways, and covered his eyes with his hand. All right. Not only am I turning around, I'm covering my eyes. Go ahead and change. I am a bona fide gentleman. You have to trust me." Grace scoffed. "Trust you? Yeah, right. No peeking." Ethan spread his fingers just a fraction, staring intently through the gap. "Relax, I would never peek. I'm a man of integrity." "Really?" Grace asked suspiciously. "Truer than gold," Ethan said solemnly. Only then did Grace slowly turn around, grabbing the pajamas from the bed and slipping them on. But Ethan had already seen everything clearly through the gap in his fingers, his eyes wide as saucers, practically drooling. Truly, a landscape of peaks and valleys, magnificent from every angle. Grace looked up and caught the glint of Ethan's eyes between his fingers. Ethan, you liar. You said you weren't peeking." Grace rushed over in a mix of shame and annoyance, hammering her small fists against Ethan's chest. Shush. Wait, my parents will hear us." Ethan dodged, laughing as he made excuses. Grace didn't dare make too much noise. Blushing furiously, she glared at him. Just wait until I showered. I'll deal with you then." With that, Grace turned and bolted out of the room. Ethan grinned wickedly. "That girl. We're practically an old married couple, yet she still gets shy so easily. Goo." Girls took at least half an hour to shower, and a beauty like Grace Miller took at least an hour. Ethan lay on the bed, initially excited to wait for her return, but as time ticked by, drowsiness overtook him. Before he knew it, he had drifted off. When Grace returned, she heard the sound of Ethan's soft breathing. "Ethan, you asleep?" she whispered. Ethan's eyes were closed. He was out cold. "That jerk, making me anticipate." Grace pouted, her face flushed, but she didn't wake him. Instead, she slowly climbed onto the bed, burrowed under the covers, and hugged him gently from behind. She breathed in his scent, felt his body heat, and a sense of happiness welled up from the bottom of her heart. As long as this dummy was by her side, everything was beautiful. She lifted her head, looking at his sleeping face, peaceful as a baby, and couldn't resist planting a kiss on his forehead. "Good night, dummy." She turned off the lamp, plunging the room into darkness. She held him tight, and soon, she too fell into a dream. Grace didn't know how long she slept, but she felt like she dreamed 1,000 dreams. She dreamed of going to the Grand Canyon with Ethan, seeing the Rockies, traveling to the snowy peaks of Aspen, visiting the vast plains of the Midwest. She couldn't fully imagine the beauty of those places, constructing them from images she'd seen on TV or in magazines. But in the dream, they were magnificent. Finally, they were lying on the grass, gazing up at a sky full of stars. She hugged him tight, wanting to kiss his cheek, but Ethan wouldn't turn his face to her. She got anxious. "I want to kiss you, and you're dodging? Where do you think you're going?" She forcibly turned his head toward her. Suddenly, Ethan's head transformed into a pink pig's head. Monster!" Grace screamed and threw a punch. Bam! Ow! What the hell? That hurts! A miserable scream rang out, jolting her awake. Grace stared at the ceiling, patted her face, and let out a sigh of relief. Phew, it was just a dream. Huh, but my fist. That impact felt pretty real. Are dreams usually that realistic? Suddenly, a hand reached up from the floor, clutching the edge of the bed. Ouch! Grace! Why? Why did you hit me? What did I do to you now? Ethan struggled to climb up from the floor, blood trickling from his nose. He wiped it, saw the red on his hand, and gasped. Crap! I'm bleeding. Was this girl fighting Godzilla in her sleep? That was brutal. Seeing this, Grace quickly sat up, apologizing profusely. Oh no, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Poor Ethan, are you okay? Here, wipe it quick. Ethan took the tissue she offered and wiped his nose. It didn't actually hurt that much anymore, but he wanted to play it up. Ouch, of course it hurts. My nose. I can't, I'm dizzy. I need to lie down. Ethan flopped back onto the bed, clutching his head. Oh, the dizziness. I'm festy. I need water. Guilt-ridden, Grace immediately got up, poured him a glass of water, and brought it to him. Oh, my hands are too weak. I need you to feed me, Ethan said, opening his mouth and acting pathetic. Fine, fine. I'll feed you, okay? Grace pouted, but proceeded to carefully feed him the water. After drinking, Ethan groaned again. Oh, I think I twisted my back when I fell. Everything hurts. Grace glared at him. It was just one punch, wasn't it? Why is his whole body falling apart? But she obediently said, Okay, I'll massage it for you. Ethan lay comfortably on his stomach, enjoying the gentle touch of a beautiful woman first thing in the morning. Hee, this feels amazing. Total win. Gracie, I got you wrapped around my finger, don't I? How is it? Any better? Grace asked as she pressed on his shoulders. Oh, still a bit dizzy. My legs are sore, too. Right there on the calf. Yes, right there. Ethan said, feigning weakness. Grace narrowed her eyes. Something fell off. Is this jerk playing me? She made a quiet calculation, then pinched the muscle of his calf with all her might. Yow! Ethan shot up from the bed like a spring, hopping on one leg like a wounded rooster, rubbing his calf furiously with both hands. Grace Miller, that is abuse of the wounded. Grace feigned surprise, switching to a mocking Southern Belle accent. Oh, heavens, I am terribly sorry, sir. I thought I was working out a knot. You just sit yourself right back down now, you hear? I'm good. I am cured. Ethan quickly jumped off the bed and ran for the door, trying to escape. But when he yanked the door open, two people were standing right there, hands raised as if about to knock. Ethan froze, eyes wide. Oh, Mom, Dad. Grace. Nanny? Oh, you two. Mary Ford stared at them, stunned. Mom, we went out last night, got back late, and then this happened. Ethan explained, thick-skinned. He figured it didn't matter much. His parents were open-minded people and would understand. Mr. and Mrs. Ford, gee, good morning. Grace's face burned red. She shrank back under the covers, refusing to come out, wishing she could dig a tunnel to China with her toes. Mary's face dawned with realization, and she beamed. Oh, Gracie, I get it. I was just coming to wake Ethan for breakfast, but since you're here, there's no rush. You two wake up whenever you want. No hurry at all. You two just keep resting. I'll go with your uncle to prep some more food. With that, Mary shoved Frank forward. Come on, old man, let's go. Don't disturb the young couple's quality time. Frank muttered to Ethan as he turned. Son, if you don't want to be a dad too soon, take it easy. Mary glared at him. Hey, why do you have so much to say? Wouldn't a grandson be nice? Move it. The two pushed and shoved each other away, and Ethan closed the door again. Well, Gracie, now you have to get up for breakfast, right? Ethan teased. Grace glared at him, face flushed with humiliation and annoyance. You jerk, this is all your fault. Why am I so unlucky sleeping here? I could die of embarrassment. Ethan defended himself. Hey, Grace, that's just because you're thin-skinned. I don't care. Grace's eyes curved into dangerous crescents as she whispered. Really? You don't care? Then next time, how about you spend the night at my house? Ethan puffed out his chest. Try me. What's the big deal? Whoever chickens out is a puppy. Grace threw off the covers and sat up. Then it's a deal. Whoever chickens out is a puppy, and the loser has to buy the other person Rocket Pops for a month. No problem, Gracie. Challenge accepted. Bring it on. Wah. Itan strak a kung fu pose. Grace covered her mouth and giggled. If you just wait and see. When the two went to eat breakfast, his parents were nowhere to be found, seemingly having left the house to give them space for their couple time. Ethan understood his mom's desire for grandkids, but these things depended on fate. If it happens, it happens. After breakfast, Grace had to go back to work on the villa design, and Ethan had to go out to visit an elder, James Bowen. James Bowen's secretary had mentioned it before, saying he should drop by Bowen's home when he had time. Ethan had scheduled this slot. Ethan drove to buy gifts first. Nothing too extravagant, just some high-end health supplements, premium coffee, and toys for the kid, tanks, toy guns, and the like. Last time, Secretary Ben had mentioned that James Bowen had a young grandson who was the apple of his eye. Ethan had remembered that, so he bought some cool toys to bring over. After buying the gifts, Ethan drove to James Bowen's residence. Chicago suburbs, inside the government-gated community. James Bowen, holding a rolled-up newspaper and with his hands behind his back, was leisurely walking home. "Hey, Mayor Bowen, back so early today?" Morning tea over already, an elderly neighbor greeted him. "Got a guest coming today, so didn't stay long," Bowen replied with a smile. All right, I won't disturb you then." The old man chuckled and tactfully walked away. As the holidays approached, the guests at the deputy mayor's house were endless. Visiting superiors and old leaders at the end of the year had become a tacit tradition within the system. Bowen returned home and changed into his slippers. "Honey, cook a bit more food today." "Who's visiting today?" "Good Lord, it hasn't stopped these past few days." An elderly woman with silver hair and reading glasses sighed from the sofa. She was James Bowen's wife, Laura. "It's been like this for years, just bear with it. Didn't I used to go visit other leaders at year-end back in the day?" "Relationships need reciprocity," Bowen smiled. "I know. Just drink a little less, okay? I'll go start cooking." Laura stood up and walked to the kitchen, skillfully tying on an apron. Despite being in her 50s, she moved briskly. Just then, a 7 or 8-year-old boy ran out of her room, holding a drawing. "Grandpa, look. How's my drawing?" The paper depicted a countryside scene, squiggly lines forming a picture full of childlike innocence. Not bad at all. Jerry is doing great." Bowen patted his head, smiling kindly. Suddenly, Bowen's cell phone rang. He picked it up. "Hello, James Bowen speaking." Hey, hello, old boss. It's Tom K. Little Tom." A respectful male voice came from the other end. Bowen let out an O of realization. "It's Tom. Haven't heard from you in a while. How's work lately?" "Everything's smooth." Tom K. was a director under him back when he ran the Economic and Trade Commission. They stayed in touch once or twice a year. Midway through the year, K had a job transfer, and Bowen had pulled some strings to help him secure a promotion. Thanks to your blessings, old boss, work is going smoothly. But hey, it's my fault. I've been so swamped since moving over there, getting my bearings, I didn't even know how to report back to you. But now it's year-end, and I'm up here on official business. I figured I had to report to you in person," Tom K. said apologetically. Bowen couldn't help but laugh. "Report what work to me. I'm not your direct superior anymore. Hey now, old boss, you'll always be my leader. I'll never forget your mentorship." K said solemnly. All right. Enough with the mentorship talk. I recognize your ability. Just don't embarrass me, haha." Bowen laughed. Of course. "Old boss, are you free today? If you are, I'd like to come see you." Kay asked. Come on over. Getting ready for the holidays. I'm not too busy." "Great. Okay, old boss. I'll be there in a bit." Hanging up the phone, Bowen shook his head. He didn't need a guest to know that Tom K. was definitely coming up specifically to give gifts. He helped K. rise to the position of mayor of Fulton. The man naturally felt the need to return the favor. Bowen didn't particularly like this kind of transactional relationship. He helped Tom K. because among the candidates, he thought K. had the strongest ability, nothing more. But since the man had come all the way up here, he couldn't just shut him out. That wouldn't be polite. Bowen shook his head because Tom K. didn't understand him. "Old man, who was that?" Laura asked from the kitchen. "Tom K. said he'll be here soon." Bowen replied. "I'll add another dish then. By the way, didn't you say a young man was coming too?" "He said he'd be here at noon. Should be soon." Bowen took the kettle, filled it with hot water, and began cleaning the tea set. Before long, there was a knock at the door. Bowen thought Ethan had arrived and called out with a smile, "Coming. Just a second." But when he walked to the door and opened it, it was Tom K. standing outside. Tom K. was short, balding, bespectacled, with a bit of a potbelly, slightly overweight, his face piled with smiles, looking a bit like a laughing Buddha. "Hey, old boss. Here to wish you an early happy holidays." Seeing it was Tom K., the smile on James Bowen's face stiffened slightly. All right. Very thoughtful of you. Come in, sit down." "Hey, old boss, I brought a little something. Some Pappy Van Winkle and a small tin of coffee beans. This roast is a specialty of Fulton. Brought it specially for you to taste," Tom K. said respectfully. "It's enough that you came. Why bring gifts? You need to pay attention to the regulations," Bowen reminded him. Tom K. straightened up. "Old boss, don't worry. I bought these with my own salary. Not expensive, He had been in the system long enough to know exactly who to give what. He knew Bowen was upright and wouldn't easily accept gifts. His trip from Fulton this time was ostensibly for official business, but in reality, it was specifically to thank Bowen. He had tried other connections before, but other leaders couldn't help. Too many eyes were on the mayor of Fulton position. Later, news came out that his promotion was due to Bowen putting in a good word. That was a huge favor. He had come a few times before to discuss work, but this visit was specifically to express gratitude. Seat. Have some tea first. Bowen gestured. Yes, sir. Tom K. put down the gifts and sat at the tea table in the living room. Suddenly, he noticed there were 3 teacups set out on the table. Is someone else coming? Although he saw it, he couldn't ask. Instead, he expressed his gratitude solemnly. Old boss, to be honest, I am incredibly grateful to you. Back in the commission, you taught me so much, and I've kept it all in mind. Being able to serve as mayor of Fulton this year is all thanks to you. You really are the benefactor of my life. Bowen waved his hand, speaking calmly. Benefactor or not, as long as you have ability, take action, and serve the people wholeheartedly, I support you. Whether it's you or someone else, I treat everyone equally. I'm happy you went to Fulton, and I hope you can achieve some results. If a place wants to develop, it must attract investment. With investment, projects, and talent, the local economy can come alive. I'm waiting to see your results next year. Tom K. sat up straight, listening like a student. Yes, you're right, old boss. That's why as soon as I got to Fulton, I started assessing the situation. But, to be honest, the situation isn't optimistic. Speaking of this, Tom K. sighed lightly. Bowen poured him tea and asked, encountering difficulties in your work? Tom K. smiled bitterly. The work itself is going smoothly, but do you know the situation in Fulton? Lots of mountains, little land, no location advantage. Economic development is hard. Right now, apart from a bit of mining holding it up, I really don't know where to start. Try to raise the development level is full of obstacles. Old boss, I'm not afraid of difficulties, and I'm not complaining to you. It's just the reality of Fulton. As you know, before I took office, Fulton was at the bottom every year. If that weren't the case, the previous leader wouldn't have been transferred laterally. Bowen hadn't been to Fulton, but he had heard of its situation. He said seriously, difficulties are a given. Otherwise, why would I recommend you? You're younger than the others, more open-minded, more flexible, and you have drive. I don't know the specific situation in Fulton, so I can't give specific advice. No investigation, no right to speak. However, if you encounter difficulties but have ideas, as long as they are reasonable, I will support you. Tom K. said gratefully, Yes, thank you for your support. It's just that I haven't found a breakthrough point or a handle yet. I still need to research more, think more, and discuss more with colleagues. Bowen laughed. Work must be done. Seek progress through stability. Put more mind on work and less on visiting houses. This was a veiled criticism of Tom K.'s tendency to focus on networking and maneuvering for position. Tom K. was a sharp guy. He naturally heard the meaning in Bowen's words. He scratched his head humbly. Yes, the leader is right to criticize. I will reflect and correct myself. Bowen just smiled and said, Drink your tea. He appreciated Tom K.'s workability and flexible thinking, but he had some reservations about K.'s political maneuvering. It was what he disliked most about him. But people are complex. He couldn't demand that everyone, all his colleagues, be exactly like him. That wasn't realistic. He had a clear understanding of this, so he only offered a small reminder. As long as it wasn't a matter of principle or within his direct jurisdiction, he could turn a blind eye. Unlike with Director Drake. Tom K. picked up the teacup, took a sip, and exclaimed, Good coffee. This roast is amazing. If I come to Chicago in the future, I'll have to come to you to beg for a cup. If you need help with work, you can come and discuss it with me anytime. As for coffee, I have plenty here, Bowen smiled. The implication was, if it's not about work, don't come over. But if it is work, you can discuss it anytime. Tom K. caught the underlying meaning, laughed awkwardly, and nodded repeatedly. Yes, you still care about me. He glanced at the teacup on the table and changed the subject. Old boss, is there another guest coming later? Yes, a young man. A very promising young talent. Bowen laughed. Tom K. paused. Who's this big shot? To receive such high praise from the old boss. He had never seen Bowen evaluate a young person like that. He was secretly shocked and curious. Oh, which young man? Do I know him, old boss? Tom K. asked curiously. Bowen waved his hand and laughed. You probably don't know him. You'll know him when he arrives. Knock, knock, knock. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Speak of the devil. Bowen was just about to get up to answer the door when Tom K. beat him to it. Old boss, you sit. I'll get the door. Tom K. insisted Bowen stay seated and ran to open the door himself. He opened it to see a young man standing there, wearing a black casual leather jacket, clean-shaven, handsome, with a somewhat scholarly air. Hello, I'm Ethan Fort. Is this Mayor Bowen's home? Ethan asked politely with a slight bow. Yes, yes. You must be the young man here to visit Mayor Bowen? Please come in, come in. Tom K. stepped aside to let him in. Thank you. Ethan thanked him and walked in carrying his gifts. Haha, Ethan is here. Come sit, come sit. James Bowen welcomed him warmly, his face full of genuine smiles. Seeing this, Tom K. was startled. What is this young man's background to make the old boss value him so highly? Could it be this young man is from a powerful family in the state capital? Mayor Bowen, wishing you an early happy holidays. Health and happiness to you. Ethan smiled, placing the bags of gifts on the table. It's enough that you came. Why bring so much stuff? Bowen shook his head and laughed. These are all year-end goods issued by the company. I can't use them all myself, so I brought them over for you. Hope you don't mind. Ethan explained apologetically. Company year-end goods? Well, that's all right then. Come, sit and have some coffee. Rest a bit, Bowen said with a look of realization. But he glanced casually at the bags. Ginseng, reisi poter, longing tea, puercaques. None of it looked cheap. This kid is slick. These things are a bit pricey, and he uses that excuse to fool me? He saw through Ethan's excuse immediately, but didn't expose it, because Ethan was different from Tom K. Ethan was an entrepreneur, a businessman. As long as he wasn't sending cash, antiques, or shopping cards, a few supplements and tea leaves didn't matter much. But Tom K. worked within the system on a modest salary. If his gifts were too expensive, it would cause concern. Oh, right, Mayor Bowen, here are a few toys for the little one. See if your grandson likes them. Ethan took out all the toys. Jerry heard toys from the other room and sprinted out. Seeing the tanks, airplanes, and toy guns piled on the table, he shouted in delight. Wow, so many toys. I love them. Grandpa, I want to play. Bowen kept a stern face. These are all from Uncle Ethan. If you want to play, shouldn't you thank Uncle Ethan first? Jerry stood obediently in front of Ethan and bowed. Thank you, Uncle Ethan. Uncle Ethan, can I take them to play? Ah, of course you can. Uncle gave them to you, didn't he? Go play. Ethan patted his head. Yay, I have new toys. Jerry hugged the toys happily and ran back to his room. Seeing his grandson happy, Bowen was happy too. He laughed. That kid just loves these kind of toys. His parents won't buy them for him, so he throws fits. He got his wish this time. Look how happy he is. Ethan, thank you. Come, sit. Ethan said humbly, oh, just a few toys for a kid. If he likes them, I'll bring him some more fun ones after the holidays. Haha, absolutely not. Or else he'll just play with toys and stop studying. Bowen waved his hands repeatedly. Tom K. watched the two chatting and laughing, acting familiar with each other, and his confusion and shock grew. What is this young man's identity? The old boss seems to really appreciate him. The three of them sat around the coffee table. Bowen introduced Tom K. to Ethan first. Ethan, come meet someone. This is the newly appointed mayor of Fulton, Tom K. My old subordinate, though he's not under my direct command anymore. Tom K. extended his hand proactively, smiling. Hello there. How should I address you, young friend? Mayorkai, hello. I'm Ethan Fort. You're an elder. Just call me Ethan. Ethan shook his hand, neither humble nor arrogant. Bowen announced loudly. Hey, Tom. Ethan here is a well-known entrepreneur in Chicago. The boss of West Ford Group. Young man's worth over $100 million. My God, a group enterprise boss? Worth over $100 million. Tom K. was visibly shocked, looking at Ethan in disbelief. Ethan looked only in his early 20s, like a college student, yet he was the boss of a major corporation. Incredible. Mayor Bowen Flatisme. My company is still a startup. It needs a lot of care and guidance from leaders like you. Ethan said humbly. Bowen poured him coffee and teased. Ethan, that might work on Tom, but won't work on me. Your West Ford Group has already become a major taxpayer in the Whitestone district. Judging by your tax payments, you're not far off from those companies valued at over $1 billion. Your profitability and growth rate are even stronger. Ethan smiled awkwardly. He hadn't expected Bowen to keep such a close eye on the group's taxes. Indeed, based on West Ford Group's tax growth, one could reverse engineer the operating income and revenue growth. That couldn't be hidden from James Bowen. That's all thanks to your care for our company. Otherwise, we wouldn't have achieved such results. Ethan smiled, attributing the credit to Bowen. Come off it. What I really care about is the logistics park situation. That's the testing ground for driving mass employment. If you do the logistics park well and make it a benchmark, that will be a massive contribution to Chicago, Bowen said sternly. Of course, Mayor Bowen. Rest assured, after the holidays, the logistics park breaks ground. It's expected to take only 6 to 8 months of construction. Once completed, it can officially begin operations, Ethan said seriously. The construction cost of the West Ford Logistics Park wasn't high. The initial land was approved by the city at a very low price. The support policies included construction funding support and later tax incentives. These were conditions the two had agreed upon previously. That's good. Without Director Drake's obstruction, West Ford Logistics Park can start construction smoothly, Bowen said, taking a sip of his coffee. By the way, Ethan, how are preparations for opening the garment factory in the district? Ethan replied, it's already in the group's plan. We plan to invest $3 million to establish 3 production lines, absorbing about 1,100 employees, specifically targeting the former staff of the rolling mill. We're retrofitting existing factory buildings. It should open early next year. Haha, excellent. Solving so many problems for the rolling mill. The re-employment of those workers depends on you, Bowen exclaimed. Tom K., listening to their chat from the side, became increasingly shocked. This young man could talk business with the old boss so fluently. That level of psychological quality wasn't something an ordinary person possessed. And from Ethan's words, he heard that West Ford Group had big plans. A private enterprise building its own logistics park was extremely rare. Generally, projects like logistics parks were planned and built by public institutions with the financial power and capacity. The investment required was massive. Yes, Ethan truly is a young achiever. To have built such a big business at this age is truly unbelievable. Tom K. interjected at the right moment, offering praise. Mayor K. is too kind. It was Mayor Bowen's guidance. Without his support policies, it would have been very difficult for West Ford Logistics Park to invest and build, Ethan said truthfully. Haha, that's your opportunity too. You have to have the strength to grasp the opportunity, otherwise, you can only stare at it. Tom K. took a sip of coffee, then continued to ask, Ethan, does West Ford Group have any intention of expanding to Fulton? Fulton is an investment hotspot that hasn't been developed yet. Bowen just listened, smiling without speaking. Tom K. was seizing the chance to solicit investment. But whether West Ford Group would go was up to Ethan. He couldn't persuade him. Corporate development and local development, talent reserves, resource environment, they were all interrelated. He trusted Ethan would have his own considerations. Ethan mused for a moment, then smiled. Fulton, yes, it does have investment potential. But our company is still small. I'm afraid we can't distract ourselves with expanding operations right now. It was a tactful refusal. Not that they wouldn't invest, but that the company was too small to invest. The problem wasn't Fulton, it was the company. This gave Tom K. a lot of face. Hearing this, a look of disappointment flashed in Tom K.'s eyes. He laughed awkwardly. I see. Well, if you ever have the intention to invest, we welcome you anytime. We actively play the role of service staff for enterprises, serving every company that invests well. Bowen helped explain from the side. Ethan, Fulton has many mountains and little land. Aside from mineral resources, there aren't many development opportunities. The situation is a bit tough. Right now, Tom here is looking everywhere for opportunities for Fulton. Ethan naturally understood. How much of a bonus Tom K. got depended largely on Fulton's economic development. There was nothing wrong with him actively soliciting investment. It was just that Ethan didn't have much desire to invest in 3rd or 4th tier cities right now. Population and consumption power dictated that. The 1st and 2nd tier markets were still gold mines waiting to be fully excavated. However, mentioning Fulton's development reminded Ethan of a key project planned by the state in the future. That project played a crucial role in Fulton's development. It was just that the project wasn't proposed until around 2006, then planned and built, finally operating in 2009. By then, development was years late, and Fulton had missed many opportunities. Tom K. smiled bitterly. Yes, I have to actively look for chances. But right now, I have no leads, nowhere to start. I was just telling the old boss about this. The old boss knows my difficulties. Ethan thought for a moment and said, Mayor K., regarding Fulton's development, I actually have some ideas. Oh, what ideas? Ethan, please speak freely. Tom K. asked quickly. Ethan turned to Bowen. Mayor Bowen, do you have a state map here? Can I borrow it? Edo. Wait a moment. Bowen got up, took a folded map from under the TV cabinet, and handed it to Ethan. Ethan unfolded the map, found the location of Fulton, and also saw the Illinois River Channel. He pointed to the location of Arlington near the waterway and smiled. Mayor K, I think Fulton's opportunity is here. Tom K stood up abruptly, bending over to look closely at where Ethan was pointing. Even James Bowen couldn't resist leaning in curiously. Arlington, Tom K asked, stunned. Ethan nodded confidently. Exactly. Arlington. It borders the Golden Waterway of the river. This waterway extends in all directions, connecting upstream to the Mississippi system and downstream to the Great Lakes. It's a vital passage. Here, you can build a transshipment port. The Fulton New Port. Tom K and James Bowen looked shocked. Fulton New Port? A river port? Tom K shouted in astonishment, the fog in his mind instantly cleared by those 3 words. He felt a sudden enlightenment. Bowen's eyes gleamed, and he slammed the table in approval. Yes, brilliant. This location is absolutely brilliant. We focused too much on Fulton's urban area before and forgot about such a good location on the periphery. Tom K lay excitedly over the map, eyes glued to Arlington and its surroundings. Yes, a port, a port. Fulton needs a port. A port. This move is genius. My God, Fulton has hope. Tom K muttered to himself, his fingers trembling as they touched the map. He realized it too. Fulton shouldn't be developing toward the mountains, but towards shipping. This was the handle. This was the leverage point. This was the hope for Fulton's development over the next decade. He suddenly looked up at Ethan, his eyes filled with shock. This young man was incredible. To have such foresight. Ethan, on behalf of Fulton, I thank you. Tom K grabbed Ethan's hands tightly, grateful. Ethan said humbly, no need to be polite. Maybe it's just that, as a bystander, I look in a different direction. Mayor K, the Fulton New Port can give wings to the local mining and processing manufacturing industries. A processing industrial park can be built near the port for support. The low cost of shipping allows products to be sold nationwide and even exported to the world. In addition to the industrial park, a transshipment logistics zone can be built to provide secondary processing and a distribution center for goods going north and south. This is also a very good supporting measure. Also, the port planning is very important. Ethan began to explain the Fulton New Port in detail to the 2 of them, from the port area, supporting facilities, planning, to the tonnage of docking ships. Tom K and James Bowen sat aside with pens and notebooks, listening carefully and taking detailed notes like serious students. During this time, when Ethan finished his coffee, Tom K proactively refilled his cup, then continued taking notes. Time passed bit by bit. In the kitchen, Laura finished cooking and brought out the food. Seeing the scene, she was stunned. What's wrong with the old man? Is he the leader? Or is that young man the leader? What's going on? She had never seen James Bowen listen to a young man so seriously. That focused expression made her bear not to disturb them. Forget it. Let the old man do what he wants. But looks like that young man really has skills. Laura glanced appreciatively at Ethan, didn't disturb the 3, and turned back into the kitchen to clean up. Another half hour passed in a flash. Ethan had basically explained the construction planning and operation of the port clearly. If the port is managed well, it can put Fulton's development in the fast lane, Ethan concluded. Tom K stopped writing, snapped back to reality, exhaled heavily, and said solemnly, Ethan is right. If we follow what you said, 1 port, 3 supporting facilities, multi-point port linkage, we can indeed leverage the advantage of the Golden Waterway. Ethan, listening to your lesson today, I have truly benefited a lot. I wasn't familiar with ports before, but now I at least have a general understanding. Bowen also put down his notebook and praised, yes, getting old, our thinking really isn't as flexible as the young ones. What Ethan said just now was excellent. Ethan, has West Ford Group also done port projects? Ethan scratched his head and smiled humbly. No, I just read about these things in books. I only know a little. Such a big project still needs practical feasibility research. Tom K said seriously, I think the feasibility is very, very high. It shouldn't be a problem. Ethan, with your ability and financial resources, if you have the intention to develop the Fulton New Port, I would welcome it very much. Tom K actively inviting Ethan to participate in the Fulton New Port project had his own calculations. First, Ethan's ideas for the Fulton New Port were extremely detailed, and the proposed plan had high feasibility. It would surely pass internal feasibility studies. With West Ford Group in control, the project would be more stable. Second, and a point he valued highly, was Ethan's close relationship with James Bowen. If Ethan could spearhead this project, he could gain Bowen's support and help, at least tilting policy support in their favor. Large-scale port projects like this were impossible to execute without support from the city or the state. No matter how good the project was, without support, it was useless. Castles in the air. Having mixed in the system for years, he had seen plenty of such things. Without people above, it was hard to get things done. And Ethan having Bowen's support solved this critical issue perfectly. This was why he actively invited Ethan. What do you say, Ethan? I think you have a lot of ideas for this project. If you participate in the port construction and operation, this project will definitely launch. Tom K. said solemnly. Ethan saw he wasn't joking. After thinking for a moment, he said, Fulton New Port is indeed a good project. But for a project investing hundreds of millions, West Ford Group currently doesn't have the capacity to develop it fully. However, Tom K. was initially a bit disappointed, but Ethan's tone shifted. West Ford Group can participate lightly, injecting a portion of the capital, and then be responsible for the port construction planning and post-completion operations management. That is no problem, Ethan continued. Tom K. rejoiced. Yes, that's feasible. Our Fulton Road Construction Group and West Ford Group can jointly invest to establish the Fulton Newport Company. I will fully support it. Ethan smiled. It just so happens that West Ford Group recently obtained shipbuilding qualifications. West Ford Shipyard will be established next year. At that time, I will build new docks and a new shipyard near the port to improve the port's freight capacity. As long as he controlled the shipping on the river's Golden Waterway, he could cut into the entire regional freight system. At that time, accepting shipping orders from Fulton Newport would make West Ford Group the new shipping king of the state. With one hand controlling port freight allocation and the other controlling ships and docks, the port would be an inexhaustible gold mine. Bowen glanced at Ethan and laughed. Ethan, looks like you have quite the ambition. But the shipping industry is complex. You might encounter quite a few difficulties. Ethan heard the meaning in his words. The shipping industry was a tangled web of relationships. Try to eat it up would definitely invite all sorts of problems. For example, the shipping king, Walter Haynes. Mayor Bowen, if I were afraid of difficulties, I wouldn't be in business. Since I am in business, I won't fear this or that. One must have the courage to press forward, Ethan said seriously. Ha ha ha. Tom, look, this is the vigor of youth. Yes, one must forge ahead with determination and not fear difficulties, Bowen praised. Tom K. echoed. Yes, as soon as I saw Ethan, I knew he wasn't simple. To have such achievements at such a young age, his future is limitless. Ethan waved his hand humbly. Hey, you two leaders, if you keep talking like that, you'll kill me with praise. My tail is going to wag up to the sky. Are you three done discussing national affairs? If you don't eat soon, the food will get cold. Laura called out from the dining table. Bowen checked the time. It was almost 1:30 p.m. He was startled. Oh my, we talked for so long. No wonder my stomach is growling. Let this out. He ushered Ethan and Tom K. to eat together. The three ate and chatted about the Fulton Port project, painting a beautiful future together, discussing Fulton's development. This meal lasted a full 2 hours. They drank a bottle of bourbon before finally chatting to their heart's content. After eating, Ethan took his leave, not wanting to overstay his welcome. Before leaving, Tom K. exchanged phone numbers with him, agreeing to meet again when he returned to Fulton for the holidays. Leaders, I'll take my leave now. Another day. I'll definitely visit again another day, Ethan said politely at the door. Haha, you said it. Come sit often when you have time, Bowen laughed. Understood. If the leader speaks, it must be done. That's it for now, I'm off. Goodbye, leaders. Ethan bowed to the two, then turned and left. Bowen closed the door and smiled at Tom K. Haha, Tom, my young brother is interesting, isn't he? Tom K. replied. Interesting, definitely interesting. Ordinary young people can't reach his height. He exhaled and continued. This trip today wasn't in vain. Listening to Ethan's words was worth 20 years of study. Now, I'm just thinking about making the Fulton New Port project happen, landing it, and solving Fulton's economic predicament. But I still need the old boss's support. Bowen nodded and smiled. As long as it benefits the people, I will support it. Go ahead and do it. Hearing this, Tom K.'s face lit up with joy, and he bowed. Then thank you so much, old boss. Old boss, rest assured. With Ethan in control and me watching closely, this project, no matter how difficult, will launch after the new year. Ethan couldn't drive after drinking, so he called Henry Payne to take a cab over to pick him up. About half an hour later, Henry arrived at the government community. He saw Ethan by the roadside, hand behind his back in a gazebo, watching old men play chess. Ethan, Henry called softly from behind. Ethan turned around, saw Henry, and smiled. Henry, you're here. Sorry to trouble you to come over. Here are the keys. Henry took the keys, opened the door of the Mercedes, and asked curiously, "Why are you drinking in broad daylight here, Ethan? Who lives here?" Ethan sat in the passenger seat, buckled up, and replied casually, "This is a cadre compound. I went to Mayor Bowen's house for a drink at noon." "What? Mayor Bowen?" Henry looked at Ethan in shock. Yeah, what about it? Isn't that normal?" Ethan teased. For you, Ethan, I guess it is normal." Henry's mouth twitched. The deputy mayor of Chicago. Who was that? Ordinary people couldn't even meet him, let alone say a few words, much less sit together for a drink. To sit at the mayor's drinking table meant the relationship was extraordinary. "Drive back to the company. I have things to do tonight," Ethan instructed. On it, Henry started the car, and the Mercedes sedan drove away under the astonished gazes of the onlookers. In the car, Ethan called Frank Manning, the manager of West Ford Security. "Hello, Manning." "Mr. Ford, what are your orders?" Manning spoke directly. Shouts could be heard in the background. Clearly, they were training. "Have Wes Sterling and his group reported in?" Ethan asked. "Yes, the three of them have processed their onboarding and received their uniforms and supplies," Manning replied. "Tonight, bring all the brothers and them to Group HQ," Ethan ordered. "Yes," Manning responded. He didn't ask questions. Whatever Ethan ordered, he did. After hanging up, Ethan called Victor the Reaper Vane, asking Camel to come sit at the company and handle the Lenny Lawson matter. Hearing this, Victor didn't say a second word and immediately told Camel to take people over. Driving beside him, Henry asked, "Ethan, how do you plan to handle Lenny Lawson?" Ethan said coldly, "If he's smart, everything will be fine. If he's not, then I'll ask Camel to help handle it." Evening, Lawson Finance. Lenny the Leech, Lawson smoked a cigarette, his face full of worry. The office door was pushed open, and a middle-aged man wearing a green suit and a floral shirt walked in. He looked somewhat similar to Lenny, but carried himself with more gravitas. "Bro," Lenny stood up to greet him. This was his biological brother, Leo Lawson. Leo held his hands behind his back, glared at him, and cursed, "Shit, who the hell told you to cause trouble on Victor Vane's turf?" Lenny lowered his head and smoked, not daring to reply. Seeing this, Leo was even more furious. He knew exactly what kind of person his brother was. Tough on the outside, but a coward at heart. Hearing about Lenny's antics at the KTV, he felt his own face had been completely lost. "You are you? What should I say to you? You sure as hell don't know how to do business. If you don't have the goods, don't try to act arrogant like others. Is Victor Vane someone you, or I, or we can mess with? Do you have a death wish?" Leo pointed at his nose and scolded. Lenny felt a bit aggrieved and mumbled, I didn't know that kid Wes had those connections." Leo said, hating iron for not becoming steel. "If you weren't greedy and didn't inflate the numbers so much, would they have come down hard on you? Use your pig brain to think. If it was a normal debt, paying it back is justified. But what the hell were you greedy for? If this goes on, I'm going to be dragged down by you sooner or later. Damn it." Lenny was scolded bloody, but didn't dare refute. He whispered, "Bro, don't be angry yet. That guy Ethan Ford told me to go to West Ford Group tonight to get the money. Should I go or not?" Leo lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and thought. "Go, but we're not going to get money. We're taking gifts to apologize. I'll go with you later. With me there, put your heart back in your stomach. We must settle this matter tonight." Lenny breathed a sigh of relief, hearing his brother would go with him. "Yes, bro. I'll listen to you. Whatever you say." Leo kicked him in the ass. "Shit, why are you still standing there? Go prepare the gifts. Gifts worth at least 10 grand. 8:00 p.m. 3 sedans and a Toyota pulled up at the entrance of the Metro Tower. Approaching the holidays, besides 2 security guards, there were no pedestrians in front of the building. Leo and Lenny Lawson got out of the Toyota. A group of loafing youths in flashy, tattered jackets got out of the other cars. "Bro, West Ford Group is upstairs," Lenny whispered. Let's go up and see," Leo said deeply. A dozen people marched into the Metro Tower. Seeing their attire, the 2 security guards didn't dare block them, pretending not to see as they stepped aside. Leo led the men straight to the 30th floor. Exiting the elevator, Leo saw the West Ford Group lobby. The lights were on inside, but the main doors were shut tight. The group arrived at the company entrance. Leo frowned. "Doesn't look like they have good intentions." "Bro, they didn't open the door. It's locked." Lenny pushed the glass door, but couldn't open it. "Shit, what kind of broken company is this? Knowing we're here and closing the door? What does that mean? I'll smash their company up later," a long-haired man shouted. A bald man turned and flicked the long-haired guy on the forehead. Shit, is it your turn to speak? Behave yourself later. Although Lenny was a bit unhappy, the purpose of coming tonight was to apologize, not to start trouble. Besides, they couldn't win against them anyway. He ran to press the doorbell. Ding dong. After a moment, the other lights in the West Ford group lobby turned on, illuminating the space brightly. Suddenly, from around the corner inside, a crowd of men surged out wearing black tactical uniforms, anti-cut gloves, and black combat boots. A massive crowd. At a glance, there had to be 200 people, surged toward the door like a black tide. These men wore uniform attire, batons at their waists, their presence aggressive. Compared to Lenny's little brothers, it was like a regular army meeting a bunch of punks. Leo and the others' faces changed drastically. Oh, holy shit, what is this situation? Lenny saw so many people suddenly rush out, his legs shaking. Stay calm. Leo's face was ugly, but he managed to maintain some composure. The other underlings were scared stiff. The long-haired guy who had been boasting earlier shrank to the back in fear. Inside, a security guard opened the main door to let them in. But Leo's dozen men hesitated, none daring to step in for a moment. Finally, Leo steeled himself and walked in first. His underlings could only follow closely behind him. Under the gaze of 200 men, the long-haired guy and the other punks walked into the company lobby timidly, hearts full of fear. Even inside, they huddled tightly together, afraid to separate, terrified that this group of men in black would suddenly riot against them. What is West Ford Group's background? To keep such a group of people? How much money must that take? Lenny looked around at the dark mass of figures. The little bit of unhappiness in his heart vanished, because they couldn't afford to mess with them. Just this group of people, look around the whole of Chicago, not many could pull this off, and their equipment was so refined. Terrifying West Ford Group. Mr. Ford is waiting for you inside. Frank Manning, the leader, walked up to Leo and said deeply. Manning was a giant at 6 feet 3 inches, built like a bull. Standing in front of the two, he was like a mountain blocking the way, his presence imposing. Yes. Thanks for the welcome, brother. Leo squeezed out an ugly smile and spoke politely. He was just about to lead his men in when they were stopped by a group of black uniformed men. Spread your arms. Routine procedure, Manning said calmly. Then, the group stepped forward to pat down the dozen of them, ensuring they weren't hiding weapons. Leo had never received such treatment, but even so, he had to grit his teeth and endure it, not daring to voice any objection. He knew that the two brothers, in front of West Ford Group, were nothing. Opposing West Ford Group was like throwing an egg against a rock. After the search, Manning said to the two, "Only you two go in. The rest wait outside." "Flower bro." The bald man was worried. Leo scolded. "Enough, shut up. Listen to them. Guests follow the host's rules, understand?" The bald man lowered his head, not daring to speak again. Leo turned and glanced at his pale-faced brother, whispering, "Grab the gifts. Follow me. We're going to give Mr. Forta Prupe Avuloi." With that, Leo took his brother through the crowd, walking toward the inner office area of West Ford Group. As he turned the corner, he saw quite a few people sitting in the office area. Among them, a bald man with a scar on his head was particularly conspicuous because his appearance was truly terrifying. One look was enough to make your hair stand on end. Leo recognized that scarred bald man immediately. He was shocked, his heart skipping a beat. That was Victor Vane's #1 ruthless man, Camel. What exactly does Ethan Ford want to do? The moment Leo Lawson saw Camel, his heart went cold, but he forced a facade of calm. "See, Camel. Good to see you." He walked up to Camel first, squeezing out a smile to greet him. Camel sat in a chair, looked him up and down, and grinned. "Leo Lawson, huh?" Yes. It's an honor that Camel remembers me," Leo replied with a bow, not daring to meet his eyes. "I know about your brother's business. Originally, my thought was to throw him into the river." Camel looked at Lenny and sneered. The Lawson brothers' faces changed simultaneously. Lenny lowered his head, standing behind his brother, afraid to make a sound. Leo quickly said, Camel, my little brother here is ignorant. You're a big man with a big heart. I came today specifically to apologize to Mr. Ford. Even if you want to beat this kid up, I have no objections." Camel crossed his legs, lit a cigarette, and said, "You're smart, kid. All right, Mr. Ford is waiting for you in the conference room." Okay. Thank you, Camel." Leo nodded repeatedly, then kicked Lenny. "Why aren't you thanking Camel quickly?" Thank you, Camel." Lenny bowed repeatedly. Leo slapped the back of his head and then led the way toward the conference room. Lenny followed closely behind. The conference room door was open. The brothers peeked in and saw two people sitting inside, Ethan Ford and Wes Sterling. Come in. Ethan sat at the head of the table, drinking coffee. Hello, Mr. Ford. I'm Flower Boy's big brother, Leo Lawson. First time meeting, please take care of us. Leo piled smiles on his face, walked in quickly, and proactively offered his hand to Ethan. But Ethan just glanced at him, showing no intention of standing up to shake hands. Immediately, Leo felt incredibly awkward. His hand froze in mid-air for a moment before he retracted it. Mr. Ford, I brought my brother today, specifically to apologize to you. That thing at the KTV last time, my brother was indeed in the wrong, ignorant. After I went back, I immediately disciplined him. Leo stood by the side, speaking humbly. Ethan took a stack of money from under the table, placed it on the surface, and said calmly, "This is $5,000. Take it." He seemed not to have heard a word of Leo's speech. But with the money on the table, neither of the Lawson brothers dared to touch it. At a time like this, who dared to take the money? Mr. Ford, no need, no need. You keep this money. How could we dare take your money? Brother Wes's debt is settled, wiped clean. Leo pushed the money back toward Ethan. Ethan stood up, stared at Leo, and said deeply, "The way I, Ethan Ford, do business, one thing counts for one thing." With that, Ethan took the money and walked up to Lenny. A look of fear appeared on Lenny's face. He stammered, Mr. Ford, take it." Ethan handed the money to him. "And no, really no need, Mr. Ford." Lenny looked at the money, even more afraid to take it, waving his hands frantically. Ethan glared at him and said coldly, "I told you to take it. Why the nonsense?" Under Ethan's piercing gaze, Lenny's face went white. Trembling, he reached out and took the money. Leo quickly came over to smooth things out. Hey, Mr. Ford really is a principled man. Flower, why aren't you thanking Mr. Ford quickly? Thank you, Mr. Ford. Lenny bowed. Mr. Ford, this is a little token of our appreciation from us brothers. Please accept it. Leo placed the gift bags on the conference table. Inside were various expensive cigarettes, liquors, and gold jewelry. The pile was worth over $10,000. But Ethan didn't even glance at it. Instead, he suddenly grabbed Lenny by the neck and slammed his head onto the table. Bam! Lenny howled in pain, the money in his hand falling to the floor. The sudden turn of events made Leo's heart skip a beat. He was just about to move forward to save his brother, but Wes Sterling stepped in front of him, blocking his path. Ethan held Lenny down with one hand and said coldly, "One thing counts for one thing. The money I gave you. Now, for that night's account, I still have to settle with you." And Mr. Ford, I was wrong. I was wrong. Please spare me this once. I'll never dare again. Lenny shouted, begging for mercy. Yes, Mr. Ford. I, Leo Lawson, guarantee it. I promise my brother will absolutely never offend again. Leo pleaded for his brother. Hearing this, Ethan huffed and finally released Lenny, sitting back in a main seat. You have only two choices. 1, work for me. 2, disappear from the state. Ethan held up 2 fingers, staring coldly at the two. Leo swallowed hard, hesitation on his face. But a knock sounded from the door behind him. He looked back to see Camel standing there, staring at the brothers. Camel's eyes were truly terrifying. Leo was startled, his mind racing. West Ford Group was wealthy and powerful, and Ethan had such a good relationship with Victor Vane. Wouldn't he walk sideways in Chicago in the future? Besides, people came out to the streets to make money. If they could make money leaning on West Ford Group, who would risk loan sharking? Furthermore, was there a third choice right now? 1,000 thoughts flashed through Leo's mind. He immediately knelt on one knee. Mr. Ford, from now on, whatever you say, we do. Lenny knelt down too. Only then did a satisfied smile appear on Ethan's face. Not bad. Leo, you're smart. Get up. Leo stood up, gave a dry laugh, stood aside, and said, Mr. Ford, from now on, the Lawson brothers follow you. You say go east, we never go west. Let's hope so, Ethan said calmly. Subduing the Lawson brothers this time was partly to use them, but more importantly, to solve future troubles. If these brothers weren't smart, he would have solved this trouble ahead of time tonight. Regarding these two, what Ethan wanted was to control them and use them. But whether they could be fully controlled remained to be verified. Especially someone like Lenny. Cowards might have a rebellious bone in their hearts. Leo, let me ask you, what is your main business right now? Ethan picked up his coffee cup, took a sip, and asked, Mr. Ford, us brothers have been lending money in Chicago for 5 years. Besides lending, we occasionally take jobs helping people collect debts, Leo answered truthfully. Ethan snorted coldly. Now, loan sharking. Do you know how many people loan sharking kills? Leo said bitterly, Mr. Ford, regarding Brother Wes, that really was my brother acting on his own. The money we lend, looking at the interest points in Chicago, isn't low, but it's definitely not the highest. We have our own set of rules. In this world right now, banks won't lend money to common people. If they don't borrow from us, they'll borrow from others with even higher interest. Ethan looked at Leo with surprise. This guy actually had some logic to his work. Social financing in the year 2000 was indeed very chaotic and complex. Ordinary people without assets couldn't borrow money from banks, so a large number of lending companies like the Lawson brothers emerged. This was driven by demand. It was also a product of unfair and unregulated social financing. Ethan tapped the table and warned, it's not that you can't do the lending business, but you better control it. Some money you can afford to earn less of. If a situation like last time happens again, you won't be far from the bottom of the river. Hearing this, a chill rushed straight to Leo's brain, making his hair stand on end. Mr. Ford, rest assured, we will never offend again. All right, as long as you have self-awareness. Ethan waved his hand, speaking calmly. His every gesture put pressure on Leo. Mr. Ford, I will discipline my subordinates strictly in the future. Rest assured, if anyone messes around, I'll be the first to stop them. Leo patted his chest. Ethan smiled faintly, staring at him. It's good that you have this resolve. You live over by Old Street in the district, right? Leo was secretly shocked. He had never mentioned his home address. How did Ethan know? It seems Mr. Ford has investigated me thoroughly. Yes, Mr. Ford. Leo replied truthfully. Ethan smiled. I plan to open a large West Ford cyber cafe on Old Street. You help me watch the place. I'll give you a 20% share of the profits every month. That 20% should be around $15,000 to $20,000 a month. The art of leadership was nothing more than the carrot and the stick, kindness and power applied together. Only then could one win hearts and make them willing to work. What? $15,000 a month in dividends. Leo's eyes went wide, shocked. That would be over $150,000 a year. He worked hard all year loan sharking just to make $30,000 or $40,000 in interest. My God, Mr. Ford was so generous. What too little? Ethan narrowed his eyes at him. Leo waved his hands repeatedly, excited. No, Mr. Ford. It's too much. Getting a reward without merit. Ethan stood up, patted his shoulder, and smiled. Work for me, and I won't mistreat you. Take what I give you. Leo said gratefully, Yes, thank you, Mr. Ford. All right. You guys go back. Ethan smiled, his tone a few degrees warmer. Yes. Leo nodded repeatedly, then pulled his brother to leave together. After they left, Henry Payne walked in and whispered, Ethan, I get the feeling these brothers aren't very reliable. Ethan chuckled lightly. Where in the world are there so many reliable people? Even if they aren't reliable, as long as they're useful to us, that's enough. To deal with the Haynes family, the cards in my hand must be numerous. If this net isn't tight enough, we won't catch a big fish like the Haynes family. Henry looked enlightened and nodded. Ethan, I understand. By the way, Henry, where are you and Hannah having Christmas Eve dinner? Why don't you come back to my hometown for the holidays? Henry looked a bit shy and whispered, Ethan, sorry about that. Valerie asked me to go to her house for Christmas Eve, said something about meeting the parents. Ethan was pleasantly surprised and laughed. That's great. Good. If it works out, I'll prepare a big red envelope for you. He hadn't expected Henry's progress to be so fast, meeting the parents by Christmas. As long as Victor Vane didn't object, Valerie's family basically wouldn't have an opinion. Sigh. Henry was wandering the streets not long ago, and now he has a girlfriend. Time flies. Ethan, after Christmas Eve, I'll come find you on Christmas Day to wish you a happy holiday. Henry said seriously. Hey, whatever works. Just give me a call beforehand. I haven't seen Hannah in a while. Remember to bring her along. Ethan nodded. All right. Take Camel and his brothers out for a good time later. Come to me for reimbursement. We troubled them today. Treat them well. Ethan patted Henry's shoulder and instructed. This was social reciprocity and good manners. Okay, Ethan. I'll take them to a bar later. Henry responded. Ethan turned to look at Wes Sterling and beckoned. Wes, bring your two brothers over here. Yes, Mr. Ford. Wes responded. Ethan walked out of the conference room to his own office and sat down to smoke a cigarette. A moment later, Wes walked in with two sturdy young men. Mr. Ford, Duke and Dan are here. Wes saluted. Hello, Mr. Ford. The Drake brothers stood at attention and shouted in unison. The Drake brothers looked very similar, with dark skin and buzz cuts, their eyes piercing and spirited. Haha, no need to be so stiff. Come, seat. Ethan stood up to welcome them, smiling kindly. The three sat down, and Ethan offered cigarettes. Duke and Dan accepted the cigarettes with serious expressions but didn't smoke them. Wes raised his hand to decline, indicating he didn't smoke. Ethan asked softly, Duke, I heard from Wes that it's just you two brothers left in the family. Yes, Mr. Ford. Parents passed early. We were originally 4 brothers. Later, 2 stayed in the sandbox. Mentioning this, a look of desolation appeared in Duke's eyes. My condolences. From now on, the company is your home. Everyone here is a brother. Besides, Wes is now the company's training supervisor. You 3 can look out for each other. Ethan said kindly. Duke said gratefully, Yes, Mr. Ford. Thank you for taking us in. Otherwise, my brother and I might have ended up selling bootlegs on the street. Letting you sell bootlegs would be a burial of talent. Haha. Ethan praised. I called you here today to arrange for you 2 brothers to follow me. My safety is in your hands. Ethan smiled. Duke and Dan shot up from their seats. Duke said solemnly, Yes, Mr. Ford. We will forever be the strongest shield before you. The next day, December 23 RD. 3 high-end black sedans were lined up neatly downstairs at the Mill residential compound. 1 Mercedes S-Class and 2 Audi A6S. The appearance of 3 luxury cars in the compound attracted onlookers, and a dozen kids were curiously peeking out of windows. My God, so many luxury cars. Whose family is that? Old Wu, you don't know? It's old Ford's family. The Ford kid is successful. Heard he made a fortune opening computer stores. Hey, old Zhang. Ethan is incredibly successful. Top scorer on the SATs and knows how to make money. I heard from a neighbor he's got the destiny of a genius. A genius? He must have dragged the god of wealth down with him. Sigh, if I had a son like that, I'd wake up laughing from my dreams. Wake up laughing? I'd go down to the grave personally to tell the ancestors. Just then, Ethan and Grace came down pulling suitcases, followed by their parents. In the back, Duke and Dan were carrying a lot of items, along with sacks of specialty gifts. Mom, Dad, is that everything? Ethan exhaled and looked back. That's about it. We can head out, Frank Ford said cheerfully. Duke and Dan immediately loaded the luggage and holiday gifts into the cars. In just that bit of downtime, neighbors swarmed up to greet Frank and Mary. Hey, old Ford, going back to the countryside for the holidays. Frank, your car is so luxurious. Old Ford, come, let me introduce you. This is my little sister, just turned 18, graduating next year. Mary, my girl, is graduating this year and hasn't found a job yet. Talk to Ethan. See if there's a position he can arrange. Assistant or something works. Mary, I have a niece who's very pretty. I'll bring her over for you to see later. Everyone chimed in, some asking for jobs for juniors, some introducing girlfriends to Ethan, some just trying to get close. The scene was chaotic. Frank Ford was busy brushing them off left and right. Hearing someone introducing a girlfriend for Ethan, he laughed. Well, about that. Ethan already has a partner. Let's not bring that up. Hearing Ethan had a partner, the crowd reacted with surprise and disappointment. Mary echoed a few words and then hurried into the car to escape. She really couldn't handle it. Frank exchanged a few pleasantries with old neighbors and then decisively said goodbye and bolted. Mr. Ford, everything is loaded. Leaving now. Duke asked Ethan. Let's go. Ethan smiled. The parents of both families got into the cars. Ethan and Grace took 1 car alone. Virum, the engine started. The 2 Audis led the way, leaving the unit block, with Ethan's Mercedes following closely behind. Inside the car, Grace waved her small fist excitedly. Oh yeah, going back to the hometown to play. Ethan, to Big Rock. Let's go. Ethan stepped on the gas and laughed. Roger that. Moving out. Approaching the holidays, there were many more cars on the road returning home. Not many sedans, but plenty of trucks and beat-up station wagons. The Mercedes S-Class Ethan drove was quite eye-catching on the road, drawing side glances from truck drivers every time. Ethan isn't driving this car back. A bit too flashy? Grace asked hesitantly. Wealth not returning home is like wearing brocade in the night. The money was earned openly and honestly. There's nothing shameful about it. Ethan said indifferently. When a person reaches a certain level, they become numb to external gazes. Envy or jealousy. In Ethan's view, that was other people's business. Why suffer and pretend to be poor just because you care about others' opinions? People shouldn't live in other people's eyes. Living in others' eyes is destined to be a tragedy. True. Ethan, what's the first thing you want to do when we get back? Grace asked curiously. Of course, it's the dirt oven roast. Ethan grinned. Dirt oven roast? What's that? Grace asked, confused. Pit, roasting chicken. Returning home is for roasting chicken. Yay. Chicken, you are beautiful. I want to roast chicken too. Grace looked forward to it. No matter how mature one was in society, returning to the hometown to roast chicken was about reclaiming that childhood innocence, the pure happiness in memory. Grace suddenly remembered something. By the way, Ethan, we agreed on a bet last time. Don't think about wussing out. We bet on whether you can build the oven. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Fine, I accept your bet. I can definitely build it this year. Say it, what's the wager? Grace tapped her lip, thought for a moment, then said confidently, let's bet. Washing socks. Whoever loses has to wash the other person's smelly socks for a month. Ethan narrowed his eyes and smiled. Gracie, you said it. Grace puffed out her rather impressive chest and said heroically, of course. Pinky swear, no takebacks for 100 years. Whoever lies is a puppy. The convoy departed in the morning, heading for Big Rock. What was originally a 3-hour drive took 5 hours due to the heavy holiday traffic, getting stuck in jams along the way. Grace looked out the car window at the dilapidated shacks and mottled brick houses. Big Rock looks exactly the same as before. It seems like nothing has changed, or maybe it's just gotten a little older. Ethan couldn't help but sigh too. The changes we see in the city happen day by day. Compared to the rural towns, it's like two different worlds. The process of urbanization won't stop. The biggest role of these towns is to export labor to the big cities. The hometown itself won't change much. Pedestrians on the road were mostly wearing blue denim jackets and dark work pants. The walls were painted with various slogans. Speak civilized, act civilized, be civilized. Neighborhood watch. We look out for each other. Just say no to drugs. Ethan looked at these slogans and felt a strange touch in his heart. In this era, small families were becoming the norm due to economic pressures and career focus. This was why both he and Grace were only children. No siblings, never experiencing what sibling affection felt like. It was a pity, but it was also the choice of the times. The car drove through the bustling town streets. Passers-by stopped to watch, pairs of cloudy eyes looking at Ethan with envy, curiosity, and jealousy. The car passed through the main road of Big Rock and reached the edge of town. Here, pedestrians were few, surrounded by large patches of farmland and wilderness. The afternoon sun pierced through the clouds, shining on the wild trees. Occasionally, a couple of fish ponds shimmered with golden light. The cold wind blew, rustling the withered leaves. 1,000 feet of cold wind, 10,000 miles of swaying deadwood. The rural outskirts had a kind of majestic atmosphere amidst the desolation. Dan drove George and Lily Miller back to the Miller home first. Duke and Ethan parked their 2 cars on the wild grass by the roadside. To the right of the grass was a small alley. Ethan's old home was just a dozen meters down that alley. Because the alley entrance was too narrow, the cars couldn't drive in, and the yard had no space to park, so they had to leave them outside. Ethan and Grace dragged their luggage, stumbling along the way until they finally reached the door of the old house. This old house was a dilapidated courtyard. Originally built with rammed earth walls, 2 walls had collapsed during a storm, and Grandpa had used his savings and borrowed some money from relatives to rebuild them with red brick. So, it looked a bit nondescript. Although it looked dilapidated, in Ethan's heart, it carried thick familial affection. Frank Ford put down the luggage, took out the key, opened the door, and pushed it open. Inside was dust everywhere, and weeds grew in the yard. In the middle of the yard, the old water pump remained. Come on, big cleanup time. Frank looked at the dust everywhere and laughed helplessly. Everyone started cleaning together. It took over an hour to finally tidy up the house inside and out. Exhausted, Ethan collapsed onto a chair and said to his father, Dad, let's maybe build a new house. Just this plot of land where we build. Tear down? I can't bear to. Frank shook his head. He was full of nostalgia for the courtyard. It was where he grew up, a place full of memories. Don't tear down the old house. Buy a new plot of land. Someone should be selling. Ethan smiled. We'll talk about it later. We're spending the holidays here this year. It's a bit old, but livable. Your grandpa rebuilt it very solidly, Frank reminisced, tears glistening in his eyes. Seeing this, Ethan didn't bring it up again to avoid making his father emotional. Gracie, let's go. It's still a long time before dinner. Let's go make a dirt oven. Ethan suggested. Okay, Uncle, Auntie, we're gonna make a dirt oven. Grace was as happy as child. Go ahead, be careful. Remember to come back for dinner before dark, Mary reminded with a smile. Ethan and Grace went out together, taking Duke along and asking him to go to the market to buy 2 free-range chickens. While Duke went to buy the chickens, Ethan and Grace arrived at the farmland next to the house. The crops had already been harvested, leaving it empty, waiting for the soil to be turned in the spring. Not far away, several groups of people were roasting chickens and sweet potatoes in the fields. It was quite lively. Grace found a flat spot, put her hands on her hips, and said, "Ethan, this time, we each build an oven. Whoever finishes first wins. The loser has to wash the other person's smelly socks for a month. How about it?" Ethan rolled up his sleeves and laughed loudly. "You're on. Who's afraid of who?" The two agreed and began to build their respective dirt ovens. Grace was agile and unafraid of getting dirty, breaking clods of soil apart with her bare hands. Ethan looked at his hands and tried to break the soil too, but it was strenuous. He only managed 3 pieces after a long time. "Sigh, I should have brought 2 hoes from home. The ground is dry this year. It's hard to work." Ethan shook his head, decisively giving up on this clumsy method. "Hee, that's because you don't know how to use leverage, dummy." Grace laughed proudly. "Oh, Ethan, look, I have so much dirt here. Want me to share some?" Grace smugly showed off her results to Ethan. "Grace, don't celebrate too early. The outcome is undecided. Who's the scrub is yet to be determined." Ethan huffed, then suddenly saw a group of people nearby and had an idea. He clapped his hands and ran over. It was a group of middle and high school kids. "Hey, handsome guys, do you have a hoe? Can I borrow it?" Ethan greeted them. "Who are you? Why should we lend it to you?" "My dad said not to lend things to strangers." A half-grown kid looked at Ethan warily. Yeah. Can't lend it no matter what." The other kids nodded in agreement. Ethan took out his wallet, pulled out a $20 bill, and handed it over. "Here, rental fee." The kid saw the $20, and his eyes lit up. "Here, take it." The kid took the money and handed the hoe to Ethan very readily. Ethan took the hoe and smiled. "Thanks. I'll bring it back in a bit." With the hoe, Ethan ran back and started digging. With the tool, it was half the work for twice the result. Before long, Ethan had dug a big pit and piled up a mound of dirt clods next to it. Grace, who had been focused on breaking soil, heard the commotion, turned around, and her eyes went wide. "Ah, Ethan, you cheater." Ethan grinned. "You didn't say I couldn't use a hoe." "That's unfair. I'm confiscating half the dirt," Grace declared righteously, then raked a huge portion of the dirt over to her side. "Crap, didn't I just work for you for nothing?" Ethan looked dumbfounded. "Who told you to cheat?" Grace tilted her little head up arrogantly. Ethan smiled helplessly. Fine. I'll just dig some more." He dug up another pile of dirt clods, saw it was enough, and returned the hoe. "Next, time to build the oven. Haven't built one in years. Feel a bit rusty." Ethan muttered to himself. He turned around and suddenly saw Grace focused on building her oven. The setting sun cast a golden glow over her hair, making her look beautiful. This scene was like a painting or perhaps a memory from childhood. The corners of Ethan's mouth tilted up. Right now, there was no intrigue, no deception, only innocence, peace, and tranquility. Life like this was pretty good. "Ethan, look, my foundation is pretty solid, right?" Grace stood up, clapped her hands, and looked proudly at her masterpiece. Ethan saw she had built it steadily and said with a hint of envy, "All right, I know you're amazing." Grace looked around and saw several piles of hay and wood to the west. "Hey, right, I need to go get some firewood." With that, she sprinted toward the west. Ethan shouted a warning. "Gracie, be careful." There's what?" Grace asked, looking back as she ran. But before she could finish, she felt her foot step into something soft. Ethan's mouth twitched. "There are a lot of cow pies." Grace looked down, her face changing drastically. "Ooh, M.G. Grace." Changed the next morning, Christmas Day, to the next morning, Christmas Eve, to correctly precede the Christmas Eve dinner in. Changed December 27th to December 26th to logically follow 2 days later from the Christmas Eve confrontation, December 24th. Model consistency. Remove the specific reference to S320 and replaced it with S-Class or S600 to maintain consistency with a high value, $115,000+ cited by Tyler in. Tone and phrasing. Changed laughed hoarsely to chuckled dryly to better reflect the confident/sarcastic tone of the source text, Yaren Sherxiao. Formatting. Maintained all character names and American cultural adaptations. Big Rock, Fulton, Parliaments, etc. "Ethan, you jerk. Why didn't you warn me?" Grace Miller glared at Ethan Ford, her face dark with annoyance. "Gracie, you can't blame me for that. You were running too fast." Ethan shrugged, laughing helplessly. "But look on the bright side. Stepping in it is supposed to bring good luck. Stepping in cow chips brings luck." Ethan tried to comfort her, but he was struggling to hold back his laughter. "Arg, I don't want that kind of luck." Grace pulled her foot out. The sole and side of her sneaker were caked in dark, mushy excretion. Gross. But a little cow pie won't stop me. Grace bent down and simply took off her shoes, standing barefoot on the grass. Instead of continuing to hunt for firewood, she turned back. Young Master Ford, the heavy responsibility of gathering wood is now yours. Grace announced imperiously. All right. You wait here. I'll get the wood. Watch your step barefoot. Ethan called out with concern. Don't worry about me. Go chop chop. Grace shooed him away. He ran off to gather wood, and soon returned with a large bundle in his arms. But when he got back, he saw that Grace's dirt oven was already half built. Whoa, Gracie, that's not fair. Ethan dropped the wood and hurriedly started building his own oven. All's fair in love and war. I'm almost done. Grace laughed triumphantly. Ethan glanced at Grace's progress while he worked. At this rate, she was definitely going to win. He needed a shortcut. Ethan looked around and spotted a pile of discarded bricks by the roadside. Bingo! Ethan ran over and grabbed the bricks, using them to form a solid base for his oven. He laid down 3 layers of bricks and then piled mud clods on top. In no time, his oven was nearing completion. Grace was preparing to seal the top of hers when she looked over and her eyes went wide. Stinky Ethan, you used bricks. Nobody said I couldn't use bricks, Ethan replied matter-of-factly. No, that's cheating. You could have used bricks too, Ethan laughed. But I'm almost finished. Grace pouted. Not my problem. And last handful of dirt. Ethan sprinkled the final handful of soil on top. He dusted off his hands. Done. Gracie, I win. Remember, you have to wash my smelly socks for a month. Fine, I'll wash them. But Ethan, that was a hollow victory, Grace said with a haughty sniff. Just then, Duke Drake returned with 2 chickens. Mr. Ford, the chickens are here. Ethan saw the 2 fresh, clean chickens in Duke's hands and smiled. Go pick some corn husks. Or large leaves from the woods will do. Duke nodded. You got it, Mr. Ford. I'm on it. While Duke went to get the leaves, Ethan went to the car to get the seasoning and a mixing bowl he'd brought from home to marinate the chickens. Grace leaned in curiously. What kind of seasoning are you using? Ethan smiled mysteriously. My secret sauce, of course. Watch closely. I'm passing down this ancestral recipe to you. First, green onions and cooking wine to remove the gamey smell and add fragrance. Then soy sauce, oyster sauce, and orange peel. Remember, the orange peel is key. Ethan explained the steps in detail as he added the ingredients. Grace listened intently, her eyes lighting up. Got it. Next time I can make pit roast chicken myself. Duke soon returned with the corn husks. Ethan and Grace worked together to wrap the seasoned chickens tightly in the leaves. Finally, the crucial step, coating the wrapped chickens in thick mud. Duke started the fires in the 2 ovens. The fierce flames burned for about half an hour until the dirt clods were glowing red. Ethan judged the timing was right. Time to put the chickens in. He knocked a hole in the top of the ovens and dropped a mud-encased chicken into each. The final step was to collapse the ovens, smashing the red-hot dirt clods with a rock or hoe to cover the chickens, letting the residual heat do the cooking. Done and done. Now we just wait for the magic of time. Ethan clapped his hands, satisfied. Duke, thinking of the delicious taste, was already drooling. Mr. Ford, how long will this take? Ethan thought for a moment. These are big birds. Probably 2 hours. Grace moved a large rock over, sat down, and rested her chin in her hands, staring at the mound of dirt. We have to watch it closely. Otherwise, someone might steal them. Ethan chuckled. Gracie, once bitten, twice shy, huh? Grace pouted. I'm not letting my hard work go to waste. Ethan recalled their childhood days making pit roast chicken. When Grace was about 10, they had made one back in Big Rock, only for some neighborhood kids to dig it up and eat it all while they were gone. She'd been so angry, she nearly had smoke coming out of her ears. She didn't sleep a wink that night. If her dad, George, hadn't stopped her, she probably would have gone door to door looking for the culprits. Since then, she never left a pit roast unguarded. Ethan teased, all right, let's go wash our hands. Duke can watch them. You trust Duke, right? Grace glanced at Duke and said solemnly, you can't eat them yourself, okay? Duke's mouth twitched. Would I dare? Miss Miller, don't worry. I swear I won't touch a bite. Okay then, you watch them. Grace stood up, satisfied. Suddenly, an old man came running over from the road. Whose cars are those by the road? You better go check them out. Sir, those are our cars. What happened? Ethan asked, puzzled. I just saw someone sideswipe one of the cars parked on the shoulder, the old man replied. Someone hit our car? Ethan frowned. They had parked well off the road. How could they get hit? Let's go look. Ethan dropped what he was holding. The 3 of them climbed up the embankment to the road. Sure enough, from a distance, Ethan could see a large scratch on the left side of the Audi. The body panel was dented, but there was no other vehicle at the scene. Hit and run? A few locals were gathered around, whispering, "Why did that guy run after hitting the car? If he didn't run, he'd have to pay, wouldn't he?" Pay? You guys don't know who was driving? That was someone from the Tate family, working at the comptroller's office. Oh, the Tates. No wonder they're so arrogant. The others looked like they understood. Duke inspected the damage and said to Ethan, "Mr. Ford, the left front door is going to need bodywork and paint." Ethan was baffled. How do you even hit a parked car like this? What kind of driving is that? And the most frustrating part is they ran. Suddenly, the roar of an engine came from the distance. The onlookers turned to look. A silver Toyota was driving back toward them, its front bumper showing signs of impact. Everyone was surprised. The hit-and-run driver came back. The silver Toyota pulled up and stopped next to Ethan. Duke glanced at the front bumper and whispered, "Mr. Ford, looks like this is our guy." Ethan could see that clearly enough. But why return after fleeing? A young man and woman got out of the car. The man grabbed the girl by the arm and said sternly, "Tanya, apologize to them right now. You caused this mess, you deal with it. You think you can just run away? I am so disappointed in you." The young man was loudly scolding the girl. Ethan looked closely at him and suddenly felt he looked familiar. "Tyler," Ethan called out tentatively. You are." The young man looked surprised to hear his name and turned to Ethan. He scrutinized Ethan's face and then his eyes lit up. "Ethan? Ethan Ford." Ethan laughed. "Hiya. I didn't expect to run into you here." Tyler Tate was one of the few friends Ethan had in his hometown from childhood. They had met catching frogs during summer break years ago. Tyler had been impressed by Ethan's skills, and they started hanging out. They drifted apart as they grew up, and Ethan visited less often, but they had shared a meal a few years back. Tyler was delighted and patted Ethan on the shoulder. "Haha, Ethan, I can't believe it. You're back for the holidays. We haven't seen each other in years, right?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, 3 or 4 years maybe." "Time flies." Tyler looked at the cars and asked in surprise, "Ethan, are both of these yours?" Ethan nodded with a smile. "Yeah, both of them." The girl beside them snorted disdainfully and muttered, "Show off." In her eyes, Ethan was too young to afford luxury cars. He was probably just a driver or borrowed them. Tyler yanked her arm and scolded, "Tanya, what are you muttering about? Apologize to Ethan right now." Tanya Tate pouted unhappily and gave a perfunctory, "Sorry." Tyler glared at her. "Tanya, what kind of attitude is that? Can't you apologize properly?" "Tyler, what do you want from me?" "I apologize," the girl snapped. I don't know how to teach you anymore. Why are you so stubborn?" Tyler said, frustrated. He turned to Ethan apologetically. "Ethan, I am so sorry. This is my sister, Tanya. She just got her license and isn't used to the car yet. She accidentally hit yours. She panicked and tried to run, but I made her come back. I'm really sorry your trip home started with this mess. My sister is immature. I apologize on her behalf." Seeing Tyler's sincere apology, Ethan didn't take the minor accident to heart. He smiled. "It's a small thing. Don't worry about it. I'll just get fixed." Tyler took out his wallet and pulled out a stack of $100 bills, trying to shove them into Ethan's hand. "Ethan, take this. If it's not enough, call me." Tyler handed him a business card seriously. No, really? Keep your money." Ethan declined. He didn't need the cash. Tyler insisted. "Ethan, business is business. You have to take this for the repairs." Seeing his persistence, Ethan took the money to end the standoff. He then pulled a pack of Parliaments from his pocket and offered one to Tyler. "All right, I won't argue. Here, have a smoke." Ethan smiled. "Look at you, big shot. Smoking Parliaments now. These cars look fancy. Must be worth a lot, huh?" Tyler asked curiously as he took the cigarette. Ethan lit his cigarette and said casually, "Not too much." "Ha ha, Ethan, you're being modest," Tyler laughed, but he didn't pry further. "Since you're back, come by my place when you have time," Tyler invited. "Sure, I'll drop by if I can," Ethan agreed. "I'll hold you to that. I'll be waiting." Tyler laughed heartily. "Deal." Ethan nodded. Tyler grabbed Tanya's arm again. "Tanya, let's go. I'm telling Dad about this, so he can lecture you properly. If I can't teach you, maybe Dad can. Get in the car." Tyler dragged his sister back into the Toyota. He rolled down the window and waved to Ethan. "All right, Ethan, I've got to handle this. See you later." Ethan waved back. "See you." The car turned around and left. Grace came up and asked curiously, "Ethan, are you close with Tyler Tate?" "Not super close, but we're old friends. He's a good guy, straightforward. Not a bad person." Ethan chuckled. He was happy to have a friend like Tyler. Grace nodded in agreement. "I can tell. He seems decent." "All right, show's over. Duke, go watch the chicken. Don't let anyone dig it up." Ethan waved his hand. In the Tate siblings' car, silence reigned. Tyler glanced at his sister and sighed. Tanya, when are you going to grow up? Tanya huffed. Leave me alone. I don't have a brother who's such a coward. And I don't have a brother who makes his sister look like a fool in front of outsiders. Tyler scolded. What? You hit someone's car, and you think you're in the right. Tanya yelled back. I didn't do it on purpose. I'll pay him. Isn't that enough? Why did I have to apologize? Doesn't the Tate family have any face in this town? In Big Rock, who are we afraid of? You weren't actually scared by his 2 cars, were you? He's probably just a driver. Tyler pulled over to the side of the road, glaring at her. Is this about money? You hit someone's car? Isn't apologizing the basic, decent thing to do? Why are you so entitled? Hearing this, Tanya exploded. She opened the door and stormed out. Fine. I apologized, didn't I? What else do you want? I don't have a brother like you. Okay, Fine. You say I'm entitled? I'll be entitled today. I'm not going home. Oh, you're not going home? Fine, I'll go home myself. Tyler shouted in anger, starting the car and driving off. Tanya watched in shock. She didn't expect her own brother to actually leave her there. Tyler, are you really going to leave me here? Tyler, come back. But no matter how she shouted, the car was already gone. Tanya stomped her foot in rage. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend. Shauna, I'm not going home tonight. Let's go out drinking. Night fell. Ethan and Grace were guarding the dirt ovens, waiting for the moment the chicken was ready. Ethan checked the time. Exactly 2 hours. Time's up. Let's open them up. Ethan shouted impatiently. He and Duke quickly dug open the ovens, finding the hardened mud balls in the soil and pulling them out. Ethan tapped the mud with a stick. The dirt crust cracked and fell away, revealing the corn husks wrapped inside. The moment the mud cracked, a savory aroma wafted out. Smells so good. Grace was practically drooling. Of course. Look who cooked it, Ethan said smugly. He gently peeled back the husks, revealing the golden, glistening chicken meat inside. The fragrance became even more intense. Perfect. Simply perfect. This is my masterpiece. Ethan laughed. Mr. Ford, let's eat. Duke swallowed hard. Ethan tore off a drumstick and handed it to him, then handed another to Grace. Gracie, have a leg. Try it. Grace happily took the drumstick. Ethan, you know the way to my heart. Duke looked a bit panicked and waved his hands. No. Mr. Ford, you eat it. You go ahead. Ethan feigned anger. I gave it to you. So, take it. Don't argue. Duke scratched his head sheepishly. Thanks, Mr. Ford. Grace didn't waste words. She opened her mouth and took a huge bite, grease staining her lips immediately. Good. So good. Grace mumbled with her mouth full. Little glutton, you've got grease on your chin, Ethan teased, wiping her mouth with a tissue. Grace smiled sweetly and held her drumstick to his mouth. I never eat alone. Here, have a bite. Just one bite, though. Ethan grinned mischievously. Hey, you spoil me. He took a massive bite, ripping half the meat off the bone in one go. Grace's eyes went wide with instant regret. Oh my God, Ethan, that was huge. You said one bite. You didn't specify the size. Ethan smirked. Grace immediately shoved the rest of the drumstick in her mouth, puffing out her cheeks like a chipmunk. Hey, Gracie, what's that for? Ethan laughed. I'm finishing it before you steal the rest, she mumbled. That's impressive. You fit that whole thing in there. Ethan chuckled, hinting at a double entendre. Grace humphed. I can fit anything. Ethan shook his head, laughing. All right, just eat. Don't choke. The three of them demolished the first chicken with lightning speed. Ethan saved the second one to take home for his parents. Back at home, dinner was just ready. Grace wasn't hungry after the chicken, so she ate a few bites of rice and asked to be taken home. Ethan drove her. Since Dan Drake had eaten at the Miller's house, Ethan picked him up. He left the extra Audi 100 for George Miller to use for holiday visits. Ethan's family lived at the edge of Big Rock, while Grace lived near the entrance. Ethan had to drive through the town center to get back. The town was bustling at night. Young men with wild, dyed hair and flashy clothes, the local goth or punk crowd, were racing motorcycles through the streets. Suddenly, a Honda 125 dirt bike cut across the road, nearly hitting Ethan's Mercedes. The young man on the bike, carrying two girls, lost control and almost tipped over, barely catching himself with his foot. Watch where you're going, the young man shouted, reeking of alcohol. He flipped his long, dyed bangs out his eyes, cursing loudly. The two girls got off. One of them was Tanya Tate. Damn it, it's him again. Tanya recognized the car and the license plate, grinding her teeth in anger. Tanya, you know this car? The punk blocked the road and asked. Bull, that's the guy. The one who parked on the road today and blamed me for scratching his car. He's inside, Tanya said through gritted teeth. Shit, someone in Big Rock dares to disrespect the Tate family? Tanya, don't worry. If your brother won't stand up for you, I will. Neil Bull Wallace thumped his chest. He let out a sharp whistle. Motorcycles converged from all directions, surrounding Ethan's car. Bull, that car looks expensive. Might be trouble, a lackey whispered, having never seen the brand. Most of them hadn't. Neil sneered. Expensive? So what? Some guy with a few bucks forgets whose territory this is. Even if it's worth 20 or 30 grand, I'll smash it. Boys trash it. At Neil's command, the gang of youths pulled chains and iron bars from their jackets and bikes, rushing toward Ethan's Mercedes. Mr. Ford, look out. Dan unbuckled his seatbelt and threw himself over Ethan to shield him from flying glass. Smash! 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 The car windows shattered one after another. A cacophony of banging and crashing followed. Ethan hadn't expected them to attack so suddenly. A sneak attack. No honor at all. Dealing with the devil is easy. Dealing with petty goblins is a nightmare. Are they crazy? Ethan cursed, his face dark. These kids don't know when to stop. They're fearless because they're ignorant. Dunn growled in anger. Ignorance breeds madness. These kids had no idea of the consequences. Get out. A youth reached through the broken right window to grab Ethan. Ethan slammed the door into his arm. The kid howled in pain and pulled back. Dan pulled out an extendable baton and kicked the door open, swinging at the youths near the car. The heavy baton struck hard, sending several reeling back in pain. One dropped to the ground instantly. Dan cleared the immediate area and looked back. The Mercedes was destroyed. Glass everywhere, huge dents in the hood. Holy crap. It's totaled. This is Mr. Ford's brand new car. These punks are insane. He opened Ethan's door. Mr. Ford, the car is wrecked. Ethan stepped out. Seeing his $100,000 Mercedes S-Class reduced to scrap, his expression turned icy. F you. You almost made me crash. Don't think four wheels makes you tough. In Big Rock, I can end you anytime. Neil Wallace pointed at Ethan's nose, shouting curses. Hiding behind him, Tanya felt a dark thrill seeing Ethan's car destroyed. Finally, some payback. Bull, you're amazing. Tanya looked at him with adoration. She had a crush on Neil. Tanya, as long as I'm in Big Rock, no one bullies you. Neil laughed arrogantly. Bull, you're too good to me, Tanya said, touched. Ethan stared at them coldly. Did you consider the consequences of smashing my car? Neil scoffed. Consequences? Who the hell are you? Look around and see who runs Big Rock. Neil boasted. The onlookers backed away, afraid to speak up for Ethan. No one wanted trouble. Dan shielded Ethan, whispering, Mr. Ford, now's not the time to fight. Some of these punks have knives. I'm not afraid of them, but if a brawl starts, you could get hurt. Dan was right. Even with Dan's skills, protecting Ethan against 20 armed youths was dangerous. Just as the tension peaked, sirens wailed in the distance. Hey, you got lucky, kid. Game over for now. Boys scattered. Neil waved his hand. The motorcycles scattered in all directions. He grabbed the two girls and sped off. Before leaving, Neil spit a thick gob of phlegm toward Ethan. Tisk TSK. Loser. Next time you see me, you better kneel. Neil Wallace left his threat hanging in the air as he revved his motorcycle and disappeared into the darkness. Moments later, a police cruiser arrived, and the crowd dispersed. A gaunt, middle-aged officer stepped out. He looked at Ethan's smashed car, then sized up Ethan. What's the situation? This your car? Got smashed, the officer asked, walking up to Ethan. His tone was calm, as if this was a routine occurrence. Yes, officer. As you can see, I didn't expect people to smash cars in the middle of the street in a civilized society. Ethan said indignantly. Oh, you a local? What's your name? The officer continued, showing zero anger or interest in chasing the perpetrators. Instead, he started questioning Ethan. Ethan frowned. This cop didn't seem keen on doing his job. I'm Ethan Fort. From here. I go to college in Chicago. Ethan replied truthfully. Mercedes, huh? Expensive. 30 grand? The officer asked, glancing back at the car. Ethan couldn't help but ask, Officer, why aren't you going after those people? Why are you asking me this? The officer replied unhurriedly, We have to investigate to open a case. This is part of the investigation. All right, call a tow truck. You two come back to the station for a statement. Ethan's expression darkened. What was going on? The officer seemed uninterested in the gang. Or maybe intentionally ignoring them, trying to sweep it under the rug. Dan started to protest, but Ethan raised a hand to stop him. Asking won't help right now, Ethan whispered. Let's find out who those kids were first. Ethan and Dan were taken to the station in the cruiser. After giving their statements, Ethan asked if a case would be opened. The officer on duty replied casually, We can open a case, but it'll take time to investigate and gather evidence. Hearing this perfunctory answer, Ethan lost hope in the official process. Walking out of the station, Ethan saw the gaunt officer squatting by the door, smoking. Ethan had learned the man's name was Officer Holt. He'd been a cop in Big Rock his whole life. Seeing Holt finish his cigarette, Ethan pulled out a pack of Parliaments and offered him one. "Officer Holt, have another." Holt didn't refuse. He took it and lit up. Coming home for the holidays and running into them. "You got bad luck," Holt chuckled. Ethan squatted down next to him. "Officer Holt, who were they? What's their background?" "Knowing won't help you," Holt said dismissively. He added, "My advice? Let go. If you don't have business here, don't come back. Stay in Chicago. It's better there." Ethan said calmly, "You make a good point, but at least tell me who I'm dealing with." Holt pointed upward. "The Wallace family, known as the Kings of Big Rock. They have connections reaching up to the sky. You know the Tate family? They were the second biggest hat in town, and the finance department. The Wallaces and the Tates are very close." Holt stopped there, saying no more. Ethan understood. A gang of protected locals. Ethan sneered coldly. Connections to the sky? Which sky? Holt thought Ethan was just venting and laughed self-deprecatingly. "A bigger sky than ours, anyway. All right, break's over. Late night. Go home and sleep." Holt stood up, yawned, and turned to leave. "Officer Holt, wait." Ethan stood up. "What now?" Holt turned back. Ethan took 2 packs of Parliament from his pocket and stuffed them into Holt's hand. "Thanks. I can't smoke all these. Help me out, Officer Holt. Consider it a favor." Ethan smiled. Holt was surprised, but then a look of appreciation crossed his face. This kid knew how the world worked. He took the cigarettes and laughed. "Helping you smoke? That's a favor I can do." He turned and walked away. Dan walked over and whispered, "Mr. Ford, is he reliable?" Ethan smiled. "Starting by knowing a cop isn't a bad thing, is it?" Dan paused, thought for a moment, then said, "I get it, Mr. Ford. But what about those punks?" Ethan thought for a moment. "First, we get the facts. I don't care about their background or connections. Anyone who dares to ride on my head, I'll break their legs." Chapter 435. Late at night, in the Wallace Villa in Big Rock. Tanya Tate had drunk a lot that night. Neil Bull, Wallace brought her back to his place. At the door, a lackey snickered. "Boss, have fun tonight. Enjoy the spring night." After smashing the car, Neil had taken Tanya to a food stall and plied her with alcohol until she was drunk, then brought her home. "Yeah, I get first dibs. You guys can have a turn later." Neil laughed lewdly. He had been eyeing Tanya for a long time. He'd put in a lot of effort to chase her. Tonight, by showing off in front of her, he finally had his chance. Tonight, no matter what, he was going to have her. Neil helped Tanya into the villa, sneaking upstairs to his room, and dumped her on the bed. Where's this? Isn't this home?" Tanya woke up groggily, looking around in confusion. "Yeah, this is your home. If you're with me, this is your home." Neil undid his belt, licking his lips. "No, this isn't my home. I want to go home." Tanya tried to get up, but stumbled and fell off the bed. Neil picked her up, threw her back on the mattress, and pressed down on top of her. He looked at Tanya's pretty face, lust burning in his eyes. "Come on, baby." He opened his mouth, trying to lick her face. Tanya regained some consciousness and instinctively began to resist and struggle. "Oh, who are you? Let me go. Let me go." Tanya tried to push him away, but in her drunken state, she had no strength. "I'm your bull. Don't you like me? Tonight, I'm making your wish come true. I'll be your man." Neil laughed nastily. "No, don't." Tanya frowned, resisting. But Neil wasn't listening. He began to assault her aggressively. Tanya instinctively slapped him, landing a solid hit on his face. Neil was instantly enraged. He grabbed her hair and cursed. "Bitch, you dare hit me?" He raised his hand and slapped her back hard. Smack! The slap was loud and crisp. Tanya's face swelled up instantly. The pain shocked her completely sober. She touched her face, staring at Neil in horror. "Neil, you hit me. You dare to hit me?" Tanya shouted in anger. She had been pampered her whole life. Even her brother Tyler never raised a hand against her. Neil, consumed by lust and rage, didn't care. He ripped off his shirt and lunged at her. No matter how Tanya screamed or struggled, she couldn't break free. "Didn't you like me? I'm giving you a chance. Be my girlfriend, live the good life with me, and no one will dare bully you. Be good. Don't move." Neil licked his lips, reaching to tear at her clothes. Tanya clutched her clothes desperately. Neil had no patience. He slapped her again. "Stop pretending and take it off." Neil cursed, deciding to use force. Tanya screamed and kicked. "Neil, what are you doing?" Suddenly, the voice of Neil's father, Nolan Wallace, came from downstairs, followed by footsteps coming up. "Damn it!" Neil cursed under his breath. Why is the old man home now? He reluctantly let go of Tanya. Tanya, now fully aware of her situation, looked at Neil with terror. She finally saw his true colors. She had thought Neil was a loyal, straightforward, bad boy with a good heart. She didn't expect him to be this kind of monster. Tanya, don't talk nonsense when you go out, understand? There are consequences. Neil leaned in and whispered threat. Tanya pulled her clothes together and ran out barefoot, not even putting on her shoes. She ran right into Nolan Wallace at the top of the stairs. Tanya, what are you doing here? Nolan looked at her in surprise. But Tanya covered her face, crying as she ran past him without a word. Seeing her state, Nolan frowned deeply. It didn't take a genius to figure out Neil had bullied her. He stormed into Neil's room and demanded, "What happened?" Neil put his shirt back on and lied effortlessly. "Nothing. Just had a little argument with Tanya." "It's fine, Dad." "Phoenix? Doesn't look fine to me." Nolan glared at him. He knew his son's character. Fearless, reckless, and dissolute. "Dad, really it's nothing. Don't overthink it." Neil dismissed him. Nolan heard the dismissal and shouted, "You want a slap? I warned you. If you date Tanya, fine. But don't mess around. Her last name is Tate, got it?" Neil said impatiently, All right. Stop lecturing me. It's annoying as hell." Nolan was angry and helpless. What kind of attitude is that? All day long you're out drinking with those useless friends. "Where are you going tonight?" "Drinking again." Hearing the nagging, Neil kicked a chair over in frustration. "Can you stop nagging? It's annoying." Neil grabbed his jacket and walked straight out the door, heading downstairs without looking back. "Where are you going?" "Get back here," Nolan shouted, but it was useless. Neil disappeared down the stairs. Nolan's face was ashen. He could call the wind and rain in Big Rock, but he was helpless against Neil, the only heir to the Wallace family. Spoiled since childhood, Neil's temper grew worse every day. It was too late to discipline him, and Nolan didn't want to ruin their relationship completely. "This kid, is he trying to kill me?" Nolan sighed heavily. Meanwhile, Tanya arrived home, eyes red from crying. Tyler Tate was eating a late-night snack. Hearing the noise, he turned to see her walking in with her head down. "Stop. Why are you back so late? You didn't answer my calls. I was looking for you everywhere. I haven't even had dinner." Tyler scolded. She stopped, head lowered, afraid to look at him. Tyler thought he was being too harsh and softened his tone. "All right. I was wrong to leave you on the road. Hungry? Come eat something." She shook her head silently. Tyler sensed something was wrong and walked over. Tanya turned her head away. "What is it? Turn around. Let me see." Tyler saw the side of her face was red and swollen. His expression changed instantly. Tanya turned. Her face was tear-stained and swollen. "What happened? Who hit you?" Tyler demanded furiously. "His own sister." "Tyler." Tanya burst into tears again. She poured out the night's events to him. Hearing that Neil had smashed Ethan's car and then tried to assault Tanya, Tyler was enraged. That Neil Wallace. He dares to bully the Tate family. Tyler's face was dark. Did he smash Ethan's Mercedes? The one with the three-pointed star? Tyler asked suddenly. Tanya nodded. "Yes, that one. It looked bad." Tyler sneered. "Then Neil Wallace is in deep trouble. Do you know how much Ethan's Mercedes is worth?" Tanya shook her head and guessed, maybe 20 or 30,000. Tyler held up 2 fingers. "Over $100,000. Tanya turned pale. What? Over 100 grand. Tyler walked to the living room, picked up a car magazine, flipped to a page, and shoved it in front of her. The car listed was the S600, priced at $115,000. Tanya covered her mouth in shock. $100,000? To her, that was an astronomical figure. In Big Rock, an average family made maybe 20 grand a year. Buying that car would take a lifetime of savings. Tyler put down the magazine and said calmly, "Someone who drives a car like that. Is he ordinary?" "My old friend Ethan. He's not simple." Neil Wallace kicked an iron plate this time. "But I won't let him off easily either. I'm calling Ethan. It's time to team up." Chapter 436. The next morning, Christmas Eve, Ethan took Duke and Dan to the Tate residence. Tyler Tate had been waiting for a while and met them at the courtyard gate. "Haha, Mr. Ford is here. Come in," Tyler said politely. Ever since realizing Ethan's wealth, his attitude had unconsciously become more deferential. Ethan smiled. "Mr. Ford, calling me, that makes us strangers. I bought some gift baskets. Just an early holiday greeting from Mr. Tate." Tyler saw that Ethan was still as friendly as ever and felt a touch of emotion. To be so rich yet so approachable was rare. "Ethan, I told you last night, just bring yourself. No gifts needed. After what happened with my sister, I'm embarrassed enough Tyler said apologetically. Ethan shook his head and smiled. Small stuff. I didn't take it to heart. Hey, don't just stand there. Come inside. Tyler ushered them in. The group entered the courtyard and headed to the tea room. Where's your dad? Ethan asked, not seeing Thomas Tate. Tyler smiled bitterly. My dad was furious last night. He said he was going to the Wallace house this morning. With Nolan Wallace's protective nature, my dad probably can't do much about Neil. Ethan took out a pack of cigarettes, handed one to Tyler, and asked calmly, I heard the Wallaces and your family used to be pretty close, right? Tyler took the cigarette and nodded. My dad and Nolan were classmates. Later, Nolan built his business in Big Rock relying on my dad's connections. But after Nolan made money, he got arrogant. The good relationship is just what people say on the outside. Once Nolan got rich, he found other paths. He didn't need us anymore. Ethan understood immediately. Nolan Wallace relied on more than just the Tates now. If he didn't have someone above him, he wouldn't be jumping so high. Who is it? Someone in law enforcement. Ethan asked. Tyler looked at Ethan in surprise. How did you know? Ethan chuckled. Guessed. The attitude at the police station made it obvious. Without that kind of connection, even the town mayor couldn't pull strings like that easily. Tyler's face darkened. Exactly. The head of that department. And not just him. I know of at least 3 others. Ethan sneered. Neil has quite a few umbrellas. As they were talking, Tanya entered carrying a thermos of hot water. Tyler, hot. Hot water. Tanya kept her head down, speaking softly. Tyler slapped the table and scolded. Where are your manners? Say hello. Brother Ethan. Brother Ethan. Tanya's face was pale as she whispered to Ethan. Tyler glared at her sternly. Look at what you did last night. You disgraced the Tate family. Neil, apologize. Tanya dropped to her knees with a thump right in front of Ethan. Sorry, brother Ethan. Tanya looked ready to cry, completely stripped of her previous wild arrogance. She looked like a child who had made a mistake. Ethan watched all of this, his mind clear as a mirror. Tyler was disciplining Tanya in front of them on purpose. It was a show for him. It was Tyler's way of showing he wouldn't tolerate his sister's behavior and seeking Ethan's forgiveness. Tanya stayed kneeling. Ethan didn't speak immediately, just watching her quietly. The tea room fell into silence. Even Tyler didn't speak, offering no excuses for his sister. After a long while, Tanya's knees began to hurt, and her legs trembled. All right, get up. Just remember this lesson. Ethan smiled. To Ethan, Tanya was insignificant. He hadn't taken the incident to heart, but letting her learn a lesson wouldn't hurt. Tyler barked. Why aren't you thanking brother Ethan? Consider this an education. If you don't shape up, society will beat you down much harder next time. Thank you, brother Ethan. Tanya stopped sobbing, stood up shakily, and retreated from the room. Tyler poured tea for Ethan and sighed. Ethan, sorry you had to see that. My sister is a bit wild, but I believe after this, she'll know how to behave. Ethan lifted his teacup. A little education is good for her. Tyler thought for a moment and said, Ethan, regarding Neil Wallace, you must want some compensation from the Wallace family. Ethan sneered. Compensation? Compensation is a given. But I'm more interested in sending him to prison. Tyler was stunned. He hadn't expected Ethan to be so direct. This childhood friend was truly different now. But sending Neil to prison wouldn't be easy. He thought for a moment and said gravely, Ethan, with those people protecting the Wallaces in Big Rock, sending Neil away. It's hard. Very hard. Chapter 437. Whether it's hard or not depends on if you're willing to do it. For me, it's not that hard, Ethan said with a faint smile. Tyler poured him more tea and lowered his voice. Ethan, the umbrellas protecting the Wallace family have a lot of energy in Big Rock. It's not just about what we want. I think we have to hit the Wallaces, but we should take it step by step. Neil smashed your car. Making Nolan pay for that will cost them a fortune. It'll definitely hurt them. Ethan laughed softly. I have my ways. They will definitely pay the money. And the person will definitely go inside. Tyler looked at Ethan, puzzled by his confidence, but Ethan didn't look like he was bluffing. Ethan, I made an appointment with Nolan this morning. In 2 days, we'll set up a meeting to talk about this. Our family will pressure him, Tyler said seriously. Ethan narrowed his eyes and said calmly, that works. Saves me some trouble. Saves trouble. Tyler paused, unsure why Ethan said that. Was there a deeper meaning? Tyler felt he could see less and less of his old friend. Ethan's depths were unfathomable. At that moment, footsteps sounded outside, and an old man in a black jacket with graying hair walked in, his face dark with anger. Nolan Wallace is crossing the line, the old man shouted. Dad, why did you go to the Wallace house alone? You know what kind of people they are. Calm down first. Tyler stood up to comfort him. This was Tyler's father, the deputy mayor of Big Rock, Thomas Tate. Thomas suppressed his anger and noticed Ethan and the Drake brothers behind him. Ethan stood up to greet him. Uncle Thomas, long time no see. I thought since it's the holidays, I'd come see you. Haha, it has been a few years. You're still in school, right? Thomas asked cordially. Yes, at Illinois Tech in Chicago. Sophomore year next term, Ethan replied. Illinois Tech. Top student. Thomas exclaimed. Illinois Tech was prestigious. Anyone who got in was set for life. By the way, Ethan, about last night, what are your plans? Thomas asked, staring intently at him. Tyler is right. Set up a meeting, talk to the Wallaces. The money. They must pay. Ethan smiled. Right. They must pay. Thomas said firmly. His daughter had been bullied by Neil last night, and he had been fuming all night. Now he had an excuse to go after the Wallaces, and he wasn't going to let it slip. He wanted to show Nolan that Thomas Tate still had a voice in Big Rock. Thank you for your support, Uncle Thomas. Ethan bowed slightly. The three sat down to drink tea and discussed the Wallace family further. Thomas had dealt with Nolan more and knew about his connections. He seriously suspected Nolan had used money to corrupt certain officials. They were old classmates, and their relationship used to be good. But as Nolan got rich, they drifted apart. Nolan had tried to bribe Thomas several times, but Thomas refused. Some money you couldn't take. Taking it meant being tied to the same sinking ship. Perhaps because of this, they grew distant. With the plan basically settled, Ethan saw it was getting late, and he needed to go back to help with Christmas Eve dinner. He stood up to leave. Father and son walked him out, watching Ethan get into the Audi. This Ethan doesn't seem simple, Thomas whispered with his hands behind his back. Driving luxury cars at such a young age, and with bodyguards? Even Nolan didn't have that level of style. Traveling in Mercedes and Audis. Just a simple college student? He doesn't just look rich. He looks wealthy, Tyler said enviously. Tyler's starting point in life was decent. Father a deputy mayor, himself in the finance department. He was a leader among his peers. But compared to Ethan, he felt small. The Wallaces think they can act with impunity in Big Rock. It seems they are wrong. If the Wallaces are the local snakes, Ethan is the dragon crossing the river. Thomas mused. Tyler hesitated and said, Dad, actually, Ethan doesn't just want compensation. He implied he wants to send Neil to prison. He really said that? Thomas was stunned. Tyler nodded. He has that intention, but I'm not sure if he can pull it off. Thomas frowned. This young man had money, but to move the Wallaces, you had to move the people behind them. That wasn't something money alone could do. Could he really do it? Meanwhile, in the car, Ethan made a phone call. A moment later, it connected. Hello, Mr. Ford. Ross Lawton's friendly voice came from the other end. Ross, Merry Christmas. I have something for you to do. Ethan smiled. On the other end, Ross Lawton stood up from his bamboo recliner, a gentle smile on his face. Mr. Ford, I'm listening. Chapter 438. Christmas Eve, seeing out the old and welcoming the new. Every household put up decorations, lights, and wreaths, creating a festive atmosphere. In the evening, Ethan was helping his mom make Christmas Eve dinner. Son, add some wood, make the fire hotter. Next up is garlic pork with green beans. Mary Ford commanded from the stove. You got it. Ethan stuffed 2 logs in and blew into the firebox with a bamboo tube to stoke the flames. A cloud of thick smoke puffed back out, blasting him in the face. Cough, cough, cough. Ethan hacked, eyes tearing up from smoke. Mary looked down and burst out laughing. Oh my, look at you. You look like a chimney sweep. Huh. Ethan wiped his face awkwardly, only smearing the soot further. Mary scooped a ladle of water and gently wiped his face with her hand. Careful now. You have to put the wood in one by one so it doesn't smoke back. Did you forget? Mary said gently, feeling his mother's warm fingers. Ethan felt a surge of warmth in his heart. In parents' eyes, children never really grow up. I know, Mom. Huh. Ethan chuckled dryly. All right, I have to stir fry. Last dish. Mary stood up, smiling. Pop, pop, pop. Suddenly, fireworks sounded outside, followed by many more, near and far, rising and falling. It was lively. The sound of fireworks brought a full sense of the holiday spirit. It's Christmas, Ethan sighed. Yep, another year older, Mary responded, tossing the vegetables into the wok. With Mary stir-frying, a delicious aroma filled the kitchen. The scent of garlic pork permeated the air. After a quick sauté, Mary plated the dish and said to Ethan, All right, son, take the food out. I'll clean up. Okay. Ethan carried the dish to the main room. He saw Frank Ford, Duke, and Dan putting up holiday banners. Dad, Duke, Dan, time to eat, Ethan shouted. Last two, just a sec, Frank shouted, standing on a chair. Ethan went to the courtyard well to wash his face, then set the table with bowls and chopsticks. Once everyone was done, they finally sat down to eat. Duke, get the drinks, Ethan smiled. Yes, Mr. Ford. Duke grinned, ran to the room, and brought out 4 bottles of liquor, 2 Macallan and 2 Pappy Van Winkle bourbons. Duke opened the bottles and poured for everyone. Ethan raised his glass. Come on, everyone, let's toast. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Everyone laughed and raised their glasses. Ethan just took a sip, but Duke and Dan downed theirs in one go. Ethan admonished, Hey, slow down you two. Drink slowly. Duke put down his glass, eyes a bit misty. Mr. Ford, we're just happy. This year finally feels like a good year. Hearing this, Dan felt the bitterness in his heart and smiled wryly. Yeah, how many years has it been since we had a holiday like this? Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. These brothers had lost their parents early, and 2 other brothers had died abroad. They had only each other. It was a hard life. He personally poured for Duke and Dan, then refilled his own. Duke, Daniel, my brothers too. From now on, this is your home. Ethan raised his glass seriously. Duke and Dan were moved, raising their glasses in unison. Mr. Ford. No, brother Ethan. Thank you, Duke said emotionally. Yes, regardless of age, you are our boss. If not for you, we might still be living hand to mouth. Dan said sincerely. Ethan said heartily, All right, enough talk. The feeling is in the drink. Cheers. The 3 clinked glasses and downed them. Mary put a chicken leg in Dan's bowl, speaking kindly, Child, don't just drink. Eat something to line your stomach. Dan smiled, and tears welled up in his eyes. He picked up the chicken leg and started gnawing on it, eating with gusto. This roast chicken is delicious. Ethan teased, Haha, you're exaggerating. Isn't this standard holiday food? Roast chicken, shrimp, fish. Every year it's the same. Dan grinned. It's because Mom made it. Mary praised. This boy sure knows how to talk. Frank was a hearty man too. After a few bites, he started toasting again. This Christmas Eve dinner, with 2 extra people, was even livelier for the Ford family. The 4 men finished off 4 bottles of liquor. Frank was very happy today and drank a bit too much. He couldn't set off the fireworks, so that task fell to Ethan. The sky had turned completely dark, and the sound of fireworks in town increased. Duke and Dan brought out 10 rolls of large firecrackers from the room, the big red rolls, diameter of 5 feet. They had plenty, enough to burn from Christmas through New Year's. Lay them out, from the door to the yard. Ethan smiled. The Drake brothers moved quickly. Once laid out, Ethan lit them with a lighter. The next moment, crack, 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 deafening explosions rang out. Flashes of light and rising smoke filled the air. The sustained noise drew neighbors out to watch. Not many families could afford this many firecrackers in those days. 10 rolls took a long time to burn out. The Ford house was shrouded in smoke. Ethan, Duke, and Dan hid inside. Brother Ethan, those were powerful. Duke exclaimed. He'd never seen so many firecrackers at once. We made money, so we burn a little more. Got a boom for a booming new year. Ethan laughed. Next, the fireworks. Bring them out. Let's fire off 10 boxes first. Ethan said generously. Ethan had given Frank $10,000 just for fireworks, telling him to buy as many as he wanted. The shop owner had delivered them by the truckload. They moved the fireworks to the center of the yard and lit them together. Shum, shum, shum. Fireworks shot into the sky and exploded into brilliant balloons of color. Very beautiful. Many people in town heard the noise and ran out excitedly. Kids ran around telling their friends to come watch. A crowd gathered at the alley entrance, watching the Ford family show with smiles. Ethan looked up at the brilliant display, feeling satisfied. This was a happy holiday. After the fireworks, Ethan went back inside to watch the holiday special on TV with his parents and the Drake brothers. It was a new Sharp plasma TV Ethan had bought for $5,000, worlds apart from the old junk they had before. Watching the special on it was awesome. A comedy sketch was playing, making the whole family laugh. Mary was grinning from ear to ear. The house was filled with laughter. Ethan lay on the sofa, watching TV and texting Grace. Gracie, was the roast chicken good tonight? Good, but a little sick of it. I bet we'll be eating chicken leftovers until the 27th. Huh, same here. But with Duke and Dan, we'll finish it tomorrow. Stinky Ethan. Then why don't you come over and help me finish mine? Gracie, missing me already? Huh. Yes, just missing you. What, not allowed? Son, what are you giggling at? Who are you chatting with? Mary turned and asked curiously. Mom, I'm chatting with Grace, Ethan replied. Oh good. Tell Grace we're coming over to their house on the 27th for a holiday visit, Mary reminded him. Since the families were close, Frank usually visited George Miller every year for drinks and chat. Sure, I'll tell her. Ethan nodded. He was about to text Grace when a strange number called. He'd never seen it before. Ethan thought for a moment, then answered. Hello, who is this? You're Ethan Ford, right? I'm Nolan Velez. A thick, heavy voice came from the other end. Ethan frowned. Nolan Wallace? Mr. Wallace calling me now. Surely not to wish me a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas? I don't have the leisure, Nolan said coldly. Ethan, about my son smashing your car. You and I, we better have a talk first. Chapter 439. Ethan sat up on the sofa, crossed his legs, and smiled. Talk. Mr. Wallace, what do you want to talk about? Nolan Wallace said, This matter is between us. I hope the Tate family doesn't get involved. That would be beneficial for both you and me. I know you want to use the Tates to pressure me. But you've miscalculated. If the Tates stand up for you, you won't get a single benefit. In Big Rock, what I say counts. Ethan heard the veiled threat in his voice and sneered. Mr. Wallace, you have quite an ego, but I don't plan to stroke it. We have nothing to talk about right now, Mr. Wallace. Just get the compensation money ready. Nolan's voice dropped. Ethan, watch your words. Look at where you are right now. Ethan said coldly. I know exactly where I am. I don't need you to remind me. Ethan, listen to me. Nolan was getting angry, but suddenly the phone clicked. Ethan had hung up. Nolan slammed the phone down, his face dark. He didn't expect Ethan to be so disrespectful. It looked like the Tates were definitely getting involved, and Thomas Tate would probably use this opportunity to attack him, standing up for his daughter. Thinking of this, Nolan felt a headache coming on. Just then, Neil came downstairs, putting on his shoes to go out. Stop right there. It's Christmas Eve. Where are you going? Nolan stood up and demanded. Out to play. None of your business. Neil replied, without looking up. None of my business. Do you know how much trouble you've caused? I have to wipe your ass again. Nolan roared. He felt like he was going to die of anger from his son. What trouble? Just smashed a car. Pay him 20 or 30 grand and be done with it. What's the big deal? Neil said carelessly. Besides, does that kid dare ask for money? I'll kill him. Hearing this, Nolan almost vomited blood. 20 or 30 grand. You brat, that car is worth over 100,000. Nolan slammed the table and shouted. What? Over 100 grand? Neil looked up in disbelief, frightened by the number. Nolan glared at him. You think I'm joking? Do you realize the mess you're in now? And last night? What did you do to Tanya Tate? Thomas Tate came over this morning and cursed me out. Speak. Did you bully Tanya? Nolan demanded. Neil felt a bit guilty, but his fearless nature made him defiant. I didn't do anything. Just wanted to date her. She said no. Nolan glared at him and cursed. Bullshit. Believe I won't slap you. I'm warning you. If you date Tanya, I have no objection. But don't mess around. She's a Tate, clear? Neil said impatiently. Fine. Stop lecturing me. It's annoying as hell. Nolan was angry and helpless. What kind of attitude is that? All day long hanging out with those useless friends. Where are you going tonight? Drinking again? Hearing the nagging, Neil kicked a chair over. Can you stop nagging? It's annoying. Neil grabbed his jacket and walked straight out the door, heading downstairs without looking back. Where are you going? Get back here. Nolan shouted, but it was useless. Neil disappeared down the stairs. Nolan's face was ashen. He could call the wind and rain in Big Rock, but he was helpless against Neil, the only heir to the Wallace family. Spoiled since childhood, Neil's temper grew worse every day. It was too late to discipline him, and Nolan didn't want to ruin their relationship completely. This kid, is he trying to kill me? Nolan sighed heavily. Nolan took a deep breath to calm down. He gritted his teeth. That brat really gives me no peace. Was this God sent to torture him? After calming down, Nolan thought about countermeasures. Paying 100 grand? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Better to spend 50 grand to grease some palms and send that kid Ethan to jail. If the kid was smart, out of respect for the Tates, he'd accept 20 grand and let it go. But if he wasn't smart and insisted on 100 grand, then don't blame me for being ruthless. A vicious look flashed in Nolan's eyes. He had made up his mind. On the other side, after Ethan texted Grace, he went out for a smoke. Duke and Dan joined him. Duke walked up to him and whispered, Brother Ethan, Mr. Lawton is ready. He's contacted the dealer, the third-party appraisal agency, and insurance. It's the holidays, so the damage report might have to wait until after New Year's. But Mr. Lawton said the report doesn't affect things. He's already on his way to Big Rock to handle it. Ethan nodded. Good. Leave those things to Ross. He knows that stuff better than me. Yes, Brother Ethan. But what about Neil Wallace? Should we? Duke rubbed his fists, wanting to vent his anger. Ethan flicked his cigarette ash and sneered. No need. Let him hop around for 2 more days. At this moment, in the courtyard of the government compound in Fulton City, Mayor Tom K. looked grim. He walked quickly back to his room, took out his phone, and made a call. "Hello, this is Tom K. Give me the mayor of Big Rock, Gene Gardner." Immediately, he hung up, eyes flashing with anger. He had been shocked to hear about Ethan's car being smashed yesterday. But what shocked him more was Big Rock's indulgence of the perpetrators. After some investigation, he finally understood the hidden currents. The leadership in Big Rock needed cleaning. If this wasn't handled well, and Ethan mentioned it to the old leaders, wouldn't that screw me over? Plus, the Fulton Newport project still needed Ethan's help. If the business environment was this bad, the Newport would remain a pipe dream. So, from any angle, he had to give Ethan a perfect explanation. Tom K. frowned, fingers tapping heavily on the desk. A moment later, a call came in. A terrified voice came from the other end. "Mayor Guy, happy holidays. I'm Gene Gardner. You were looking for me." Although Gene Gardner was the top man in Big Rock, he was several levels below Tom K., the mayor of Fulton. Getting a direct call like this, how could he not panic? Tom K. questioned coldly, "Mayor Gardner, is Big Rock so lawless now? Are you planning a rebellion?" Chapter 440. 2 days later, December 26th, noon. At the entrance of the Big Rock Hotel, Tyler Tate and Thomas Tate were waiting at the door. Father and son were waiting for Ethan. "Dad, what's going on these last 2 days?" Someone from the finance department was called in for questioning. "Is something moving?" Tyler asked worriedly. Thomas looked grim and shook his head. "I don't know either, but it has been strange. I feel like a storm is coming." Yesterday, Gene Gardner called me and specifically asked about Ethan. I didn't expect even him to be alarmed. Tyler worried. "Dad, could it be Nolan Wallace using his connections to pressure you? Yesterday, he sent someone with a gift and had Uncle Quinn send one too. It's obviously a threat." Thomas frowned. "Nolan definitely intends that. But does he really think he can blot out the sky in Big Rock? He doesn't dare touch me. If we tear off the mask, it won't benefit him either. He wants to give me a warning. But am I afraid of him? I've been in Big Rock for years. I may not be getting promoted, but I still have my connections." Hearing this, Tyler relaxed a bit. "Nolan is too arrogant. Today we need to extinguish his flames." "Dad, do you think Mayor Gardner might have ties to the Wallaces too?" Tyler voiced his biggest fear. If Gene Gardner was also in the Wallace's pocket, this would be very tricky. Thomas thought for a moment. "Doesn't look like it. Gene isn't on the same path as Nolan. And from what I know, he doesn't have much contact with him." Tyler pressed. "Then why did he suddenly ask about Ethan?" Thomas shook his head. "I don't know. I asked, but Gene didn't mention a thing. It's a bit weird." As they chatted, a black Audi A6 drove into the hotel entrance and stopped. It was the 26th. The hotel had no other guests. Only the two Tates stood at the door. "Dad, Ethan is here," Tyler whispered, hurrying forward. Duke and Dan got out and opened the rear door. Ethan stepped out. "Haha, Ethan, happy holidays." Tyler laughed loudly, stepping up to hug him. "Tyler, happy holidays. Hope you make a fortune this year." "Everything goes your way," Ethan smiled. I'll borrow your lucky words. But in my line of work, making a fortune isn't really an option." Tyler laughed self-deprecatingly. Ethan laughed. "There's always a chance. Just a matter of timing." After exchanging pleasantries, Ethan went to greet Thomas. Thomas actually pulled a red envelope from his pocket and handed it to Ethan. It was a tradition, usually just $1 or so, for good luck. "Just a token," Thomas said. Ethan accepted it happily. After chatting at the door, the three walked into the hotel and entered a private room. "Ethan, don't worry about today. We're here. You don't have to fear Nolan Wallace. He won't dare touch you," Tyler assured him. Ethan chuckled dryly. "What am I afraid of? I'm just waiting for the show today." "The show? What show?" Tyler was stunned. Ethan smiled mysteriously. "Tyler, you'll know when the time comes." Tyler smiled wryly. "Hey, Ethan, keeping secrets at a time like this? Nolan isn't easy to deal with. Whatever you're doing, you should discuss it with me. Maybe I can help." Ethan waved his hand. "No need. I've arranged everything. Some things I have to do personally." Tyler was confused, not knowing what Ethan had done in the shadows. After the waiters served tea, a dense sound of footsteps came from the hall. Nolan Wallace, wearing a loud, flashy shirt, appeared at the door first. "Ha ha ha, Thomas, happy holidays." Nolan greeted Thomas with a face full of smiles. Behind Nolan followed Neil Bull Wallace, and behind Neil were a dozen others. These men wore black jackets and baggy clothes, looking like thugs. Thomas recognized a few as Nolan's hired muscle. "Mr. Wallace, this holiday hasn't been very good for me." Thomas raised an eyebrow and said coldly. He used to call him Old Nolan, but now Mr. Wallace signaled the distance. Thomas's words instantly chilled the atmosphere in the room. Nolan, having seen big scenes, just laughed, treating it as a joke. He sat down. Haha, Thomas, you're such a joker. New year, new atmosphere. Be happy. Thomas waved his hand, signaling the waiter to close the door. The waiter nodded and closed the door. Now, only the Wallace father and son, the Tate father and son, and Ethan remained in the room. Thomas knocked on the table. Mr. Wallace, let's cut the crap and talk business. About Ethan, what do you have to say? Neil lit his cigarette, scoffed, and said disdainfully, he deserved it. What is there to say? Neil, the facts are clear. There's no point in arguing, Tyler Tate said coldly. Neil Bull, Wallace exhaled a plume of smoke. He almost hit me. It's only natural I smashed his car. Suddenly, Ethan Ford grabbed a teacup from the table and smashed it directly against Neil's forehead. Smash! The ceramic shattered, and blood instantly streamed down Neil's face. It happened in a split second. Everyone in the private room was stunned, unable to react. Ethan spoke calmly. Your smoke was choking me. It's only natural I smashed your head. Motherfucker! Neil clutched the wound on his head, exploding with rage as he lunged toward Ethan. Stop! Nolan Wallace stood up, grabbed his son, and slapped him across the face to snap him out of it. Dad, this punk is too arrogant. I'm gonna kill him. Don't stop me. Neil roared. Nolan glared at him and whispered harshly in his ear, calm the hell down. Seeing the undeniable authority in his father's eyes, Neil suppressed the rage in his heart and stepped back. The Tates, father and son, were dumbfounded, still processing the shock. Tyler Tate clicked his tongue in secret amazement. He hadn't expected Ethan to pull a move like that. It was completely unexpected and incredibly bold. Tyler looked at Ethan with astonishment, unable to fathom the depths of Ethan's mind. Ethan leisurely took out a cigarette, lit it, and smiled. Mr. Wallace, logic works both ways. Do you understand now? Nolan knew Thomas Tate was present and couldn't explode in anger. If anything happened, Thomas would definitely side with Ethan. If they really started a brawl, Thomas would have leverage against them. Ethan Ford, you've got guts. You've got balls, Nolan said, staring coldly at Ethan. I am flattered. World's third best, Ethan replied without batting an eye. Didn't you want to talk? Now is the perfect time. Let's settle what needs to be settled. First, compensate me for a new car. Sticker price, $235,000. Nolan's expression turned even colder as he sneered. $235,000? Ethan, are you crazy for money? In Big Rock, no one dares to mention that kind of condition or number to me. Coming here to talk today was already giving you enough face. Ethan, right now you have two choices. First, take $30,000 and we call this settled. We stay out of each other's way. Second, you don't get a dime. Never. Thomas Tate frowned. Mr. Wallace, what do you mean? Only $30,000? That number is way too low. There are laws in this country. You break someone's property, you pay the full price. Mr. Wallace, you don't want Neil to be held criminally responsible, do you? Nolan glanced at Thomas and said indifferently, Deputy Mayor Tate, this matter has nothing to do with you. Are you personally going to pursue my son's responsibility? Are you sure? Try it. Thomas slammed the table and shouted, Nolan Wallace, what is that supposed to mean? Are you threatening me? Nolan sneered. Threaten? I wouldn't dare. You're the deputy mayor. Who could threaten you? However, I advise you to mind your own business. Don't play with fire. Thomas stared at Nolan in shock and anger. I am making this my business. Things had reached a point of no return. The relationship between the former old classmates had thoroughly broken down. Everyone was flipping the table now. No more pretending. No more games. Ethan shrugged and smiled. Mr. Wallace, after saying all that, it seems you really have no sincerity. Forget it. I didn't expect you to have any sincerity anyway. Nolan snorted coldly. Ethan, I'm giving you two choices. Ethan narrowed his eyes and chuckled softly. No, I choose the third option. That is to take you out. Nolan was stunned for a moment, then threw his head back and laughed as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. Ha ha ha, what did you say? Take me out? Ha, Ford, I'm afraid you don't know who calls the shots in Big Rock. Neil wiped the blood from his forehead with a napkin and said viciously, Dad, why talk so much to them? Let's just kill this kid. After speaking, he glared at the Tate father and son. Tate, if you meddle, I'll take care of you too. I'll turn you all into vegetables and stage it as a car accident. Who the hell will know we did it? Heh, Tate, I advise you to be smart, understand? Facing Neil's naked threat, the faces of the Tate father and son changed drastically, because people like Neil Wallace were actually capable of doing such things. The Wallace family had deep connections in Big Rock. If they really did it, they could create a wrongful case or cover it up completely. Thomas slammed the table and shouted sternly, "In broad daylight? Neil, you dare." Neil sneered, "Why wouldn't I? Big Rock is full of our connections. Even if we kill you, so what?" Thomas trembled with anger, momentarily at a loss for how to restrain him. Neil looked at Ethan and said contemptuously, "Ford, you dare to oppose me on my turf? You're looking for death." Ethan smoked his cigarette, his expression indifferent, turning a blind eye to the intimidation. "Neil, do you still think this is your turf?" Neil was startled, not knowing what Ethan meant, assuming Ethan was just feigning calm. "Yeah, this has always been Wallace turf. Dad, I'm afraid there's no talking this out. Let me handle him." Neil looked at Nolan. Nolan's face was grim as he stared at Ethan. "Ford, I don't want to go to extremes. I'll give you one more chance to choose. Otherwise, you will definitely not walk out of this room today. I hope you're smart enough to save me the trouble. If he didn't have to kill anyone, he would certainly prefer that, but if Ethan insisted on over $200,000 in compensation, there was nothing to talk about. Just killing this Ford kid would end it all." The Tates looked at Ethan, their eyes full of worry. "Ethan, maybe," Tyler whispered, wanting Ethan to back down for now and plan for the long term. The situation was extremely dangerous. But before he could finish, Ethan raised his hand to interrupt him. "No need to say more. Just relax." Tyler was stunned, not knowing why Ethan was so confident, remaining so calm in such a tense situation. Ethan waved his hand and smiled at Nolan. "Mr. Wallace, I told you, I only choose one path, and that is to take you out first." Nolan slammed the table violently and shouted angrily, "Ford, you have a death wish." Neil smiled ruthlessly. "Then don't blame us for being cruel." He clapped his hands and shouted loudly, "Gary, Arnie, get in here and take care of business." But there was no movement outside the door. No one responded. The corner of Ethan's mouth curled into a smile. Nolan froze for a moment, turned around, and shouted, "Arnie, where the hell are you? Get in here." Still, there was no movement outside. Nolan's expression changed drastically, a bad feeling rising in his heart. Arnie was usually very reliable. Before coming, he had strictly instructed them not to go far. If they were at the door, they would definitely hear his voice. What was going on now? Tyler was gripping a bowl, his palms sweating from nervousness. At this moment, he was also stunned. Something seemed wrong. He looked at Ethan in astonishment, only to see Ethan leisurely drinking tea, not nervous in the slightest. "Mr. Wallace, what's wrong? Where are your people?" Ethan asked with a mocking smile. Nolan's face changed, his heart growing increasingly uneasy. Suddenly, the door opened, and someone walked in. But the people who entered were not the group Nolan brought, but Duke and Dan Drake, their faces and bodies stained with bloodstains. The brothers looked like they had walked out of hell, their murderous aura compelling, their gazes sharp. "Mr. Ford, those amateurs have all been handled." Duke revealed a chilling smile. "Neil." Nolan. The father and son were instantly dumbfounded. Nolan turned slightly and saw people lying all over the floor outside. Arnie was foaming blood at the mouth, unable to even make a sound. Seeing this terrifying scene, his face turned white instantly, pale as paper. Over a dozen men had all been beaten down, and there hadn't been a single sound just now. Hiss! Nolan sucked in a breath of cold air, looking at Duke and Dan in horror, as if he were seeing demons. Inside the private room, the Tate father and son wore identical expressions of shock. Tyler looked at the Drake brothers in astonishment, then back at Ethan. The brothers by Ethan's side were so fierce. So, this was the confidence Ethan had to come and negotiate. Unbelievable. Where on earth did Ethan recruit these beasts? The room was silent, dead silent. Ethan took a sip of tea, stood up, and said to Duke and Dan, "You guys worked hard." Dan wiped some blood off his face and grinned simply. "Not hard at all. Those punks were barely enough for a warm-up." Ethan nodded, then looked at Neil and smiled. "Neil, didn't you just say you wanted to kill me?" Neil's face was now filled with terror. He hadn't recovered from the shock yet. Hearing Ethan's words, he subconsciously took a step back. Now, he had none of his previous arrogance. He was cowed, because the situation had reversed. He had no men left. Ethan mocked. "Now you know fear? I haven't even started on you yet." Nolan, having weathered many storms, quickly forced himself to calm down and stammered. "Ethan, what do you want to do? I advise you not to mess around. We have a lot of people in Big Rock. If you dare touch us, I will definitely make sure you rot in prison." Ethan's face turned cold. He picked up a ceramic bowl from a table, lunged forward, and smashed it heavily onto Nolan's head. Smash! The ceramic bowl shattered, and Nolan's head was instantly bloodied. This blow was heavy, leaving Nolan dizzy. He stumbled back several steps, leaning against the wall and wailing as blood flowed down his forehead, staining his sleeves and clothes red. Seeing this, Neil's legs shook with fright. He looked at Ethan in horror and couldn't help but want to back out of the room, but Duke grabbed him by the collar with one hand. He wasn't going anywhere. The Tates were stunned. They didn't expect Ethan to be so ruthless when he made his move. This young man, despite his scholarly appearance, was a hard character. Tyler swallowed with difficulty, feeling that Ethan was completely unlike his former self. He had become more mature, more ruthless. Such an Ethan was too strange to him. He was no longer the somewhat innocent and naive Ethan of the past. Ethan threw away the shards in his hand, pulled out a tissue to wipe his hands, and smiled. Who saw me hit someone just now? Dan shook his head and grinned. Didn't see a thing. The old guy fell by himself. Tyler twitched the corner of his mouth and raised his hand. I didn't see anything. Ethan smiled with satisfaction, walked up to Nolan, and said, Do you still think this is your turf? Nolan looked terrified but tried to be tough. You're done. Ethan, if you dare touch me, you won't walk out of Big Rock. The police won't let you get away with this. Ring, ring, ring. Suddenly, his cell phone rang. Nolan hurriedly took it out, looked at it, and a look of joy and excitement instantly appeared on his face. It was a call from Uncle Quinn. He must be calling to say the police were coming to arrest people. Nolan immediately answered the phone. Director Quinn, quick, tell Chief Lee to bring people to the Big Rock Diner. On the other end of the line, Quinn cursed, FCK. Nolan Wallace, you've killed me. I'm warning you if you get taken in, don't f***ing drag me into it. Do you understand? You want Chief Lee to find you? He was taken away by the investigation team ages ago. FCK. Hearing this, Nolan felt like he had been struck by lightning. He asked in shock, Director Quinn, what? What's going on? Quinn, FCK, it's all because your son smashed someone's car. I'm telling you, that person has connections in the city. You've get with the wrong person. SHD, I'm going to die because of you. Suddenly, noises came from the other end of the phone. You are Quinn, correct? We are from the investigation team. Please come with us and cooperate with the investigation. Then the phone hung up abruptly. Nolan listened to the dial tone, completely dumbfounded. The sky was changing over Big Rock. He looked at Ethan in bewilderment. This young man actually had connections in the city, and he had even mobilized an investigation team specifically to look into the car incident. What kind of background did this Ethan Ford have? It was terrifying. Finish your call? Surprised. Ethan smiled. Nolan's hair stood on end. And Mr. Ford, we could discuss this. I will definitely pay for your car. Nolan changed his tune instantly, hurriedly offering compensation. Ethan sneered, Mr. Wallace, it's no longer about compensation. With that, Ethan looked at Duke and gave a signal. Duke understood, nodded, and kicked Neil hard in the legs. Thud! Neil fell heavily to his knees, howling in pain. Immediately after, Duke grabbed his right hand and twisted it. Neil's arm was instantly twisted like a pretzel, completely ruined. Neil screamed, his face drained of all color. No. So, Nolan turned pale with fright and tried to protect Neil, but Dan grabbed him by the neck with one hand, immobilizing him. Tyler's heart trembled at the sight, cold sweat seeping from his forehead. Too ruthless. He just crippled him. But considering all the evil Neil had done in Big Rock, this was retribution. Duke let go of Neil, who collapsed on the ground, tears and snot flowing freely. Seeing his son in such a miserable state, Nolan quickly knelt down and begged, Mr. Ford, stop, please stop. Whatever amount you say, I'll pay it. At this moment, footsteps sounded at the door. Then a man's voice rang out. Nolan Wallace, pay with your entire life instead. A familiar figure appeared at the door. Duke saw the newcomer and grinned. Happy New Year, Mr. Lawton. Ross Lawton nodded, then bowed slightly to Ethan. Mr. Ford, West Ford Group has formally sued the Wallace father and son, demanding full compensation for property damage. We have also requested the industry and commerce and tax departments to strictly inspect Nolan Wallace's company. Furthermore, I have filed charges with the police against the Wallaces for organizing a criminal syndicate, threats and intimidation, and intentional injury. It's enough to keep them inside for the rest of their lives. Rest assured, Mr. Ford, I'll send their protective umbrellas in with them, not missing a single one. Ethan smiled with relief. Good job, Ross. Ross Lawton looked at Nolan, revealing a genial smile. Mr. Wallace, are you satisfied with this New Year's gift package? Despair appeared in Nolan Wallace's eyes. He had run rampant in Big Rock for over a decade, but he never expected to fall into the hands of a young man today. He had many grievances in his heart, but what was the use of grievances now? He knew his reign was over. Thump, thump, thump. Heavy footsteps came from outside the door, and a group of police officers swarmed up. The leader was the officer from last time, Officer Holt. Holt glanced unexpectedly at Neil, who was paralyzed on the ground, then looked at Duke and Dan, who were stained with blood, and then acted as if he saw nothing. Nolan Wallace, you're suspected of multiple cases of intentional injury. Come with us. Holt looked at Nolan and spoke righteously. Nolan sat paralyzed on the ground, his eyes lifeless. The other officers behind him stepped forward, handcuffed the father and son, and took them away. The Wallace henchmen lying outside were also handcuffed one by one. At this moment, a young officer in his early 20s ran over and whispered in Holt's ear, "Chief, those thugs outside are all injured. They were definitely beaten. Should we take these two back for investigation as well?" The two, the young officer referred to were the Drake brothers. Holt turned his head and glared at him, whispering a reprimand. "I told you to arrest who I told you to arrest. Why so much nonsense?" The young officer was stunned, daring not to refute, and lowered his head to leave. Holt knew very well in his heart that this young man named Ethan Ford had taken down the Wallace father and son and turned the Big Rock establishment upside down. Such a person was not someone he could offend. "He, Mr. Ford, thank you for eliminating harm for the people. On behalf of the police, I express my gratitude to you." Holt wore a face full of warm smiles, walked over, and casually offered Ethan a cigarette. Ethan took the cigarette and smiled. "Officer Holt, upholding justice is every citizen's duty. Maintaining social fairness and order still depends on you guys." Holt laughed warmly. "Ah, indeed, indeed. It is our duty. Mr. Ford, about last time. I was offensive last time. Please forgive me." Holt leaned in closer to apologize to Ethan in a low voice. Last time Holt led the team, he deliberately let Neil go. It was truly because the Wallace family's connections in Big Rock were too deep, and he couldn't afford to offend them either. Ethan certainly understood his situation and smiled. "No worries, Officer Holt. I still want to thank you for upholding justice. The Wallaces have been evil for years and must have committed many crimes. This is your opportunity to maintain fairness and the rule of law." Ethan's implication was that now the opportunity was in front of him. He hoped Holt would prosecute the Wallace father and son to the fullest extent. Holt was a veteran and naturally understood Ethan's implication. He immediately straightened his face and said solemnly, "Mr. Ford, rest assured, we will definitely give the people of Big Rock a satisfactory answer and will never let any criminal go." Ethan smiled. "Very good. It's all up to you, Officer Holt." Tyler watched the two chatting and suddenly felt like he was watching two old foxes talking. Ethan's shrewdness and depth were truly too deep. "Mr. Ford, I'll get to work first. Another day, I'll definitely come to pay my New Year's respects personally." Holt bowed slightly and bid farewell. "Okay, thank you for your hard work, Officer Holt." Ethan smiled. After Holt left with his men, Ethan returned to his seat and said to Thomas Tate, "Uncle Thomas, business is done. It's lunchtime now. Why don't we have lunch together here?" Thomas breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. That works." Ethan greeted Ross Lawton. "Ross, don't rush off to work. Have lunch first. We'll talk after lunch." "Yes, Mr. Ford. Perfect. I'm a bit hungry too." Ross pressed his lips together and smiled. "Duke, Dan, you guys go wash up and change your clothes. Eat with us later. You worked hard today," Ethan said to the Drake brothers. Duke grinned broadly. "You got it, Mr. Ford. We'll go change right now." Tyler, listening from the side, heard these people calling Ethan Mr. Ford and heard the man named Ross mention a company called West Ford Group. Was Ethan actually a corporate CEO? He hesitated for a moment, leaned in front of Ethan, and asked, "Ethan, what business does your company in Chicago do?" Ethan smiled casually. "Nothing major. Mainly computer parts and software development." "Software development? What software?" Tyler asked curiously, as he had a computer at home and was relatively familiar with software on the internet. 361 PC Safety Manager, Ethan said calmly. "What? 361 PC Safety Manager was developed by your company?" Tyler shouted in shock, finding it hard to believe. 361 PC Safety Manager was a free computer security software that had swept the nation. His own computer had 361 PC Safety Manager installed. In fact, he was a premium member. The discounted premium membership fee was $29 a month, and it was even cheaper with auto-renewal. "Yeah, do you use that software too?" Ethan asked with a smile. "Of course. I'm a long-time user. I even bought the membership." I really didn't expect that software to be developed by your company. That's awesome, Tyler exclaimed in admiration. Looking at it this way, the company Ethan ran was a bona fide advanced tech company. For 361 PC safety manager to take the top spot in domestic cybersecurity, its size and profitability must be awesome. No wonder he drove a luxury car worth over $200,000 at such a young age. Ethan smiled. It's okay. It's the result of everyone's hard work. Ethan, you're too humble. If that's the case, I'm definitely following you from now on, Tyler said excitedly. Thomas, seeing his son's expression, asked curiously, Tyler, what is this 361 manager? The older generation didn't like using computers and didn't use them often, so they weren't very familiar with that aspect. Dad, it's a computer security software. It has the #1 market share in the country. Sigh, you probably wouldn't understand if I explained it, but just imagine that Ethan's company is the next Yahoo, and you'll understand. Tyler explained with a smile. Ah, sounds like it's doing quite big, Thomas said in surprise, secretly figuring that it was no wonder Ethan had such strength. Ethan smiled. Haha, Uncle Thomas, I'm just making a living. I'm really grateful for your help today. No matter what, lunch is on me. Ethan called the waiter, ordered all the diner's signature dishes, and asked them to bring up the best liquor. After ordering, while everyone was drinking tea and chatting, Ethan's cell phone suddenly rang. As soon as the ringtone sounded, everyone else consciously stopped talking and quieted down. Ethan saw the caller ID, answered immediately, and laughed. Haha, hello, Mayor K. Haha, Ethan, where are you? Mayor Tom K's friendly laughter came from the other end of the phone. I'm at the Big Rock Diner, dealing with some things today, Ethan replied casually. Tom K laughed. Haha, I know. Don't worry, I've taken care of all those corrupt elements behind the Wallace family. Then I really have to thank you, Ethan said politely. Hey, it's what I should do. If we hadn't found out early, who knows how long Big Rock would have been poisoned, Tom K said seriously. Yes, with you taking action, Big Rock will surely be restored to clarity, Ethan complimented. Oh, stop flattering me. I'll come find you in a bit, Tom K laughed. You're in Big Rock? Ethan asked in surprise. Tom K said, yes, I came over to keep an eye on the investigation team and inspect Big Rock while I was at it. I'm at the town hall right now. Ethan said happily, ha, great. Come over and have a casual meal with us then. That was my intention. Saves me from buying fast food. All right, you order first, I'll be there in a while, Tom K said. After hanging up, Ethan continued drinking his tea. Thomas, having just heard Ethan's phone call, asked curiously, Ethan, who else is coming later? It's Mayor K. He's in Big Rock and said he'll be here shortly. Ethan smiled casually. But the words Mayor K landed in Thomas's ears like a thunderclap. Could it be? Could it be Mayor Tom K of Fulton City? Mayor K is coming here personally? Ethan actually had such a deep relationship with Mayor K. Taking down the Wallace family and purging their protective umbrella this time must have been Mayor K pulling the strings from behind. Otherwise, it would be absolutely impossible for Ethan, a mere businessman, to achieve this. Thomas was greatly shocked. He was stunned for a long time before asking in amazement, and Mayor K is here to handle the Wallace family matter? He wasn't sure yet and wanted confirmation from Ethan. Yeah, he came to check on the investigation team, Ethan said calmly. Thomas's expression changed. Checking on the investigation team was nothing less than personally supervising the case. Mayor K actually cared so much about this matter. Waves surged in Thomas's heart, unable to calm down for a long time. Ordinary people might not think much of it, but being in the system, he knew the unspoken rules. Generally, high-ranking leaders wouldn't personally supervise a specific case, as it would lower their status. But Mayor K doing so was actually a symbolic gesture. It symbolized that he stood on Ethan's side. Within Fulton City, no one else should think about targeting Ethan. This was Mayor K's statement. To be valued so highly by City Mayor, Ethan was definitely not simple. At this moment, Thomas's perception of Ethan changed drastically. Ethan, I didn't expect you and Mayor K to be so close. I was sweating for you just now. Thomas hurriedly poured tea for Ethan and said affectionately. Now Thomas's attitude towards Ethan became even more cordial, his face full of kind smiles. I was also worried about leaking the news, Ethan said calmly. This implied that Thomas, or the people around Thomas, were not yet trustworthy enough. Thomas laughed awkwardly. True, I wasn't thinking thoroughly. Come, drink tea. Thomas raised his teacup and personally toasted Ethan. Ethan raised his cup in return. Tyler watched this, feeling an inexplicable bitterness in his heart. So, his childhood playmate had now grown to a height he couldn't touch. Even his own father had to be respectful to him. In a flash of so many years, it felt like people had completely changed, like the world had transformed. As they chatted, the food and wine were served, but no one touched them, all waiting for Tom K. Tom K called to say he was arriving, so Ethan led them downstairs to welcome him. Sure enough, a moment later, an imported Honda sedan stopped at the entrance of the diner. Tom K got out of the back seat. Seeing Ethan, he laughed loudly. "Haha, Ethan. Happy New Year." Ethan stepped forward to greet him, shook hands, and laughed. "Happy New Year, Mayor K. Sorry to trouble you to make a trip during the holidays." "Hey, don't say that. Our work is year-round. Serving the people has no holidays." Tom K joked. Ethan complimented. "Mayor K is truly righteous. It is a blessing for Fulton City to have a leader like you." After exchanging pleasantries, Thomas saw the timing was right and stepped forward to greet him. "Hello, Mayor K." Tom K looked at Thomas, nodded, and said, "You are Deputy Mayor Tate, right? I remember you." Thomas bowed repeatedly with his hands clasped. "Mayor, you have a great memory. I've only been to the city for meetings a few times. I didn't expect you to remember me." Tom K smiled. "Of course I remember. You went with Gene Gardner. You had a proposal for the Big Rock Road diversion project. I remember it deeply. Your idea was quite good." Thomas was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect Tom K to remember that proposal. This man was truly attentive. "Oh, the mayor is flattering me. That proposal was researched jointly by old Gene and me. There might still be shortcomings. Please give us more guidance, leader," Thomas said respectfully. Ethan listened and couldn't help but smile knowingly. Not forgetting to credit colleagues when claiming merit, Thomas was very astute in his conduct. The only thing missing for such a person to rise up was connections from above. "Well, regarding the proposal, after the new year, you guys prepare a more detailed plan and come to the city to discuss it. Today, I mainly wanted to see Ethan." Tom K patted Ethan on the shoulder and laughed. Thomas was secretly startled. Sure enough, Tom K appreciated Ethan very much. With this relationship, wouldn't Ethan have smooth sailing in Fulton City in the future? Ethan hurriedly invited, "Mayor K, come, let's not chat at the door. The food and wine are all served. Let's go up and have a few drinks together. It's the holidays. Drinking a little should be fine, right?" "Haha, no problem. After lunch, I should be heading back. I've done the work I needed to do this morning." Tom K waved his hand and laughed. The group returned to the private room. Ethan invited Tom K to sit in the seat of honor. He and Thomas sat on the left and right sides, and the others took their seats in order. At first, everyone exchanged auspicious New Year greetings and toasted each other. After a few rounds of drinks, Tom K sighed and tapped the table. This time, eradicating local dark forces is of great significance. It shows from his side that within our team, there's still some black sheep colluding with dark forces. Truly detestable. The Big Rock administration must learn a lesson. These words were obviously taking the opportunity to warn Thomas not to let these things happen in the future. Thomas quickly stood up to apologize. "The leader's instructions are correct. It is our work that was inadequate. We will actively learn the lesson." Tom K smiled slightly, looked at Ethan, and said, "Ethan, thanks to you this time for daring to stand up and fight against those people. Rest assured, those black sheep in the team have already been reckoned with. Uncle Quinn, Lee Townsend, Foster, and that batch have all been taken away for investigation. If it's proven they have financial ties with the Wallace family, I will absolutely not tolerate it. I want to thoroughly purify the business environment of Fulton City. I have this determination. You can rest assured." This was giving Ethan a reassurance pill, ensuring this matter wouldn't affect the subsequent investment in the Fulton Newport project. Ethan naturally reciprocated, raising his glass. "Of course, I certainly believe in your determination, leader, and I believe that under your leadership, Fulton City's tomorrow will be better." Tom K smiled with relief, naturally clinked glasses with Ethan, and drained his cup. Thomas watched the two of them being so familiar and felt envious, viewing Ethan with even more respect. To be able to drink and chat happily with a city mayor at such a young age was something ordinary people could not achieve. After a glass of wine, Tom K suddenly leaned in closer to Ethan and whispered, "Ethan, I came to find you today. Besides handling the Wallace matter, I have a very important matter to ask for your help." Ethan was startled. "What very important matter?" Tom K's face turned solemn. "It concerns the Fulton Newport project. I've thought about it, and I'm afraid only you can help me." Tom K pondered for a moment and said seriously, "Since you mentioned the Fulton Newport project before the new year, I immediately started arranging research and held several meetings after going back. I believe development requires seizing the initiative, but some comrades feel this matter needs to be handled with caution, and there have been some issues in pushing the work forward. His words were vague, but Ethan heard them clearly. It meant that the Fulton City administration had not yet achieved unity of thought. Someone had raised objections, and the project progress had encountered obstacles. Indeed, for a massive engineering project investing billions, someone probably wanted to get some benefits out of it. Ethan suddenly realized, I see. Mayor K, if I can help you, I won't hesitate. Tom K showed a joyful look and laughed. Haha, Ethan, I knew I didn't misjudge you. You're a loyal friend. I intend to list the Fulton New Port Project as the top priority project for Fulton City, so I have to apply for approval from the state. If the state approves it, then this matter must go ahead. Once the funds are allocated, other colleagues shouldn't have any objections. However, regarding the state level, I don't have the capability of old leader James Bowen. I'm afraid I have to ask the old leader to step in. Ethan smiled slightly, understanding Tom K's meaning. He was asking him to put in a good word with James Bowen, to persuade James Bowen to personally step in to help get the project started and to pressure the others in the Fulton City administration. The launch of the Fulton Newport project would also be of great benefit to West Ford Group. Naturally, he wouldn't miss this opportunity. Asking James Bowen to step in was not an issue. Ethan pretended to make up his mind and slapped the table. Mayor K, I understand. Since you've asked, I naturally have no objections. I'll go visit Deputy Mayor Bowen another day. Tom K clasped his hands and laughed. Haha, good. Ethan, I owe you one. Ethan waved his hands repeatedly. What favor? Leader, you're treating me like a stranger. If we're talking about favors, I owe you one today. No, you helped Big Rock a lot. If not for you, we definitely wouldn't have dug out this social cancer. Tom K said politely. The two old foxes flattered each other for a while, then continued to clink glasses and drink up. Thomas watched the two of them enjoying their drinks, seeing Tom K being so close to Ethan, and felt extremely envious. Ethan had noble people helping him. It seemed that in the future, he had to take good care of the Ford family in Big Rock to get closer to Ethan. And from their conversation, he vaguely heard the name James Bowen, which secretly startled him. The only Mayor Bowen in the state was James Bowen of Chicago. James Bowen also held a position in the state government, a high position indeed. From Tom K's words, it seemed Ethan also had some relationship with James Bowen. If that was true, the connections behind Ethan were not shallow. No wonder he could do big business in Chicago. Come, let's raise our glasses together to celebrate the new year, Ethan invited with a smile. Thomas subconsciously stood up and clinked glasses with Ethan. Come, Ethan, bottoms up. Now, he behaved even more humbly in front of Ethan. Ethan smiled helplessly. It wasn't his intention to be like this, as it would make the relationship between them distant. But society was like this. If status and position were unequal, people would respectfully keep their distance without you pushing them away. After a meal that lasted more than 2 hours, everyone had eaten and drunk to their heart's content. Ethan secretly instructed Duke to pay the bill. The drinking party dispersed. Ethan saw Tom K off. Only the Tate father and son remained at the entrance of the diner. Watching Ethan's car leave, Thomas sighed with emotion. Ethan is not simple at all. He is a dragon carp. Once he encounters the wind and clouds, he transforms into a dragon. Tyler thought for a moment, then suddenly said seriously, Dad, I want to resign from my job at the finance department. Thomas looked at him in surprise and asked, Why? Tyler looked in the direction Ethan left, took a deep breath, and said seriously, Dad, I want to work with Ethan. In the countryside, having a decent and powerful civil service job was already the envy of thousands. Food and drink were not worries. It was an iron rice bowl, a life without troubles. But such a life was visible to the end at a glance. Perhaps when he was old, he could reach a position similar to his father's, or even a level higher, but it would be difficult to ever jump out of this small-town circle. Today, he saw the real gap through Ethan, saw a possibly broader future. At the wine table, watching Ethan chatting and laughing with the mayor of Fulton City, the idea sprouted in his heart. In this life, he didn't want to be confined to Big Rock. There was a wider world outside. Thomas looked at him with relief and encouraged, Son, go ahead. I respect your choice. However, if you want to work with Ethan, you should bring some gifts and visit personally another day to ask for Ethan's opinion and thoughts. When the time comes, I'll go with you. The next day, January 3 RD. It had rained in the middle of the night, but the clouds scattered in the morning and the sunlight pierced through, feeling warm on the body. Ethan got up early, stretching his limbs in the yard. His father, Frank Ford, came out of the house, carrying bags large and small, loading them into the car. These were gifts to bring to the Miller family. Ethan saw him worrying so much and preparing so many gifts, so he couldn't help but persuade. Dad, your gifts are about to fill the trunk. We're all practically family. Sending so much makes us seem distant. Frank Ford held 2 bottles of Macallan 18, stuffed them into the car, and replied, "What do you know? You and Grace are dating. Today counts as paying New Year's respects to future in-laws, so the gifts naturally have to be heavy." Ethan was stunned and laughed dumbly. Is there such a saying? Mary Ford came out in casual clothes and laughed. Son, definitely. You guys will be sophomores in the middle of this year. In another year or 2, you'll be getting married regardless. Naturally, these gifts can't be scant. By the way, I also bought a pair of bracelets for Grace. A gold one and a jade one. See if they look good? Mary showed off the bracelets in her hand. One was glittering gold, thick and large, and the other was white with drifting clouds, obviously not cheap goods. Ethan was a bit surprised. His mom, who usually haggled over grocery prices, was so generous this time. It seemed she had accepted this daughter-in-law. Good. As long as you and Dad are happy, anything goes. Ethan shook his head and laughed. As long as his parents were happy and pleased, he wouldn't say anything even if they bought expensive things. His parents had saved all their lives. Now that he made a little money, they couldn't spend much of it anyway, so let them spend more and be happy. Frank clapped his hands and smiled with satisfaction. All right, everything is loaded. Let's get ready to go. On the other side, in the Miller home, Lily Miller was busy cooking in the kitchen. She had to make a table of sumptuous dishes to entertain Ethan's family, spinning around like a top all by herself. She looked back and saw George Miller reading the newspaper at the tea table, so she shouted, "Honey, if you're so idle, come over and help me." George looked around and asked in surprise, "Hey, where's Grace? Didn't she help you? Where did that child run off to?" Lily rolled her eyes at him and said, "Grace is busy in her room. You're the big idler here. Cut the chatter and come over here." Lily used a commanding tone. George laughed awkwardly, daring not to disobey his wife's orders, put down the newspaper, and got up to go to the kitchen to help pick vegetables. What's wrong with Grace these days? If she's not outside, she's staying in her room. What's she busy with? George asked curiously. Lily laughed. Busy knitting, of course. Before coming back for the holidays, she asked me how to knit towels and scarves, saying she wanted to learn and knit a scarf. Hearing this, George was greatly comforted and laughed. Haha, I said last time I lacked a scarf. I didn't expect her to really knit one for me. Sigh, this child is really something, hiding it from me. Grace is truly my sweet little cotton-padded jacket. My love for her wasn't in vain. Lily glanced at him and said bluntly, "Old man, what are you thinking? Grace is knitting for Ethan." The smile on George's face instantly froze. In her room, Grace Miller was putting the finishing touches on the scarf. Her hands were a bit clumsy, and her movements weren't fast, but she was very serious, focused on every stitch. Ring, ring, ring. The phone rang. She stopped what she was doing and glanced at her cell phone. It was Chloe Jones calling, so she answered immediately. Haha, Grace. Happy New Year. Chloe's hearty laughter came from the phone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. What's up? Grace asked while continuing her arduous knitting journey. Can I call you if nothing's up? Hey, I wanted to ask when you're going back to Chicago. Let's hang out together. Chloe asked with a smile. Probably the 6th. Just 2 or 3 days left. After the new year, gotta have fun before it's over. Where do you want to go? Grace asked. Tank and I agreed to go hiking. Summit White Cloud Mountain. Chloe said expectantly. Okay, we'll talk then. Grace put all her mind on knitting the scarf, answering perfunctorily. Chloe also heard her perfunctory tone and asked, Hey, Grace, what are you doing? I'm knitting this damn scarf. Grace laughed bitterly. Before the new year, thinking about giving Ethan a heartfelt New Year's gift, she thought about it and found inspiration from a Taiwanese drama. The most heartfelt gift for a boyfriend was a hand-knitted scarf, putting it on the person you love, giving him warmth. Her head heated up, and she immediately decided to give Ethan a hand-knitted scarf. But she ultimately overlooked the issue of personal talent. Ask her to chop wood for 3 days, and she wouldn't frown, but knitting a scarf was pure torture. Even though she learned simple knitting methods from her mother, no matter how simple, she often pricked her fingers. Ouch! In a moment of distraction, she accidentally pricked her middle finger again, breaking the skin, and blood seeped out. Fingertips are connected to the heart. Being pricked really hurt. But Grace had very strong willpower. Enduring the pain, she put her finger in her mouth to stop the bleeding. Even though she had been pricked countless times, and it was painful, she never planned to give up halfway, never thought of quitting. Once she decided on something, no matter how difficult, she would strive to the end. Chloe on the other end of the phone heard the noise and worried. Grace, why are you knitting a scarf? With your clumsy nerves, can you knit well? Don't hurt yourself. I'm fine, not talking to you anymore. I'm almost done. Grace said seriously. Hey, you little girl, you're really good to Ethan. TSK. If I were Ethan, I'd definitely be touched to death. Chloe teased. Grace blushed and said happily. Were you saying? Feelings are mutual. That stinky Ethan spoils me. Oh my, I'm sour with envy. But I'm not a single dog anymore. I don't need to eat dog food. You knit slowly then. I'm going to find Tank to play. Won't disturb you. Chloe laughed, then hung up the phone. Grace put down the scarf, took a Band-Aid from the drawer, and taped up the new wound. Now, out of 10 fingers, 8 were injured, and in more than one place. She raised her hands, looked at the Band-Aids wrapped around her fingers, and went crazy. Just this once. I never want to do this again, next time. But looking down at the scarf ready for completion, her heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment and expectation, expecting that Ethan would be very happy to receive this gift, right? Thinking of this, she got motivated again, picked up the scarf, and continued knitting. About an hour later, she put down the scarf, twisted her neck, and looked at the scarf with satisfaction. Finally done. Suddenly, there was movement outside the door, and she heard Mary Ford's voice. Stinky Ethan is here. Hurry up and bag the scarf to give to him, right? First find a bag to put it in. Hearing the footsteps approaching the door, Grace hurriedly found a bag from the closet and stuffed the scarf inside. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Little Grace, what are you hiding in the room for? Ethan's teasing voice came from outside. Why you don't come in yet? I'm changing clothes. Wait a minute. Grace shouted hurriedly. She saw the scarf crumpled into a ball, looking not very presentable, so she took it out again, folded it neatly, and put it back into the bag. Okay. Grace shouted, stuffed the gift under the covers first, and went to open the door. She opened the door and saw Ethan with a red rose in his mouth, striking a pose he thought was handsome. My dear little Grace, for you, may you always be as delicate and charming as this flower. Ethan flipped his bangs and spoke deeply in an extremely cheesy tone. Grace. EW, what are you doing? I've got goosebumps all over my body. Ethan twitched the corner of his mouth and asked back, No, isn't the point. Isn't the point handsomeness? Don't you think my pose just now was very handsome? Grace burst out laughing, covering her mouth. Ha. Handsome, sure. Like a cricket. Ethan. Grace Miller, this is jealousy. Pure jealousy. Jealousy of my looks. Grace laughed until tears were almost coming out, then took the flower and pushed him out the door, saying, Okay, everything you say is right. You go out and wait for me first. I also have a gift for you. Ethan looked confused as he was pushed by her to sit on the living room sofa. Grace, Happy New Year. Mary Ford greeted her with a smile. Auntie, Uncle, Happy New Year. You guys sit first. I have a gift for Mr. Ford here. I'll go get it now. Grace said obediently. Mary laughed happily. Good. Grace is such a good child. This daughter-in-law was truly more lovable the more she looked at her. Grace went back to her room to get the bag. When she came out again, everyone was already seated on the living room sofa, seemingly expecting her gift. She trotted over to Ethan, held up the bag in her hand, and smiled sweetly. Here, Mr. Ford, this is my New Year's gift to you. Ethan looked at the logo and pattern on the bag, utterly confused. The others were equally confused. Ethan twitched the corner of his mouth and asked curiously, Grace, do you want to give me a pair of stockings? Black as in black ones. Indeed, this bag was a black stockings bag, just with English words and patterns on it. Lily instantly rolled her eyes. Daughter, what are you holding? Grace. Grace froze, picked up the bag, saw the English and the pattern in the corner, and then realized. Oh my God, took the wrong bag. The stockings were bought when shopping with her cousin. In her rush, just now, she really hadn't noticed. Oh my God, too embarrassing. No, this is a scarf. Grace quickly explained, pulling a blue scarf out of it. Ethan stood up and took the scarf, somewhat surprised. He didn't expect Grace to have this kind of skill. But his gaze suddenly fell on Grace's fingers, seeing the Band-Aids wrapped around them, and he instantly understood. Grace, your fingers, Ethan said with heartache. Grace hid her hands behind her back and smiled sweetly. Oh, it's nothing. Quick, try it on, see if it fits. Ethan's face turned serious. He didn't look at the scarf, but grabbed her arms, pulled her back into the room, and sat her on the bed. Take your hands out and let me see. Ethan put down the scarf and said seriously. Grace pouted, but still took her hands out from behind her back. Ethan looked at her 10 fingers. 8 of them were wrapped in Band-Aids, with little bloodstains on them. and his heart ached for her even more. Why did you do this to yourself? If you don't know the craft, just don't do it. Did you put medicine on it? Does it hurt? Ethan asked with concern. Grace felt warm in her heart and smiled. All right, it's fine, doesn't hurt a bit. Hurry and try the scarf to see if it fits. Saying that, Grace put the scarf on him. He looked closely. This kind of scarf was knitted with thin material, and the edges had to be closed with small stitches. No wonder Grace got pricked like that. It looks very good. Although it's a solid color, the color is good, and you sewed it beautifully. Ethan praised, very moved in his heart. To have a woman do these things for you, even if it's just such a small thing, is a very happy thing. This is what they call a small gift with great meaning. Receiving praise, Grace laughed happily. Ha! Do you like it? This was made stitch by yours truly. I like it, but next time, better not do it again. Ethan advised. Grace grabbed his ear and asked with a smile. Stinky Ethan, what? Got other opinions on my gift? Ouch, stop. No opinion on the gift. Just that making scarves ruins hands. I'm just feeling bad for you. Ethan quickly defended himself. Grace smiled, letting go of his ear. Fine, I'll count you as having a conscience. Ethan, Grace, come out for lunch. Lily shouted from outside the door. Grace took Ethan's arm and smiled. Let's go eat first. After eating, let's go shopping. I made plans with my cousin to go together. You come too. I want to buy you a few sets of clothes. Ethan exposed her directly, laughing. What, buy me clothes? You plan to drag me along as coolie labor to carry your stuff? Grace asked in surprise. Oh my, you figured it out. What, do you have a choice? Crack, the sound of knuckles cracking. Ethan's face turned solemn, and he said righteously, accompanying a girlfriend shopping and carrying bags is a heavenly duty. Grace covered her mouth and laughed, planting a kiss on his cheek. That's more like it. This is your reward in advance. Ethan touched his cheek, let out a lecherous laugh, and said, Then tonight, are there any other rewards? Grace blushed, glared at him with pretty eyes, and spat. What other rewards do you want? Of course, it's to jointly explore the origins of life. Ethan said. Grace's face turned red. She pinched the soft flesh at his waist. Big pervert. We'll see then. Oh yeah. Ethan cheered. It seemed there was destined to be a great battle tonight. Before the smoke of war even rose, he was already thirsty. Let's battle. Seeing his somewhat excited look, Grace was even more shy, pulling him up from the bed. What are you thinking about? Go out and eat. Ethan nodded and said seriously, Right, eat first. Only with a full stomach do you have energy. Annoying. Ignoring you. Grace let go of him and ran out shyly alone. Stinky Ethan, why has he become so bold? No, he was always boldly lecherous. The mistress, will squeeze you dry sooner or later. The two arrived in the dining room. The food was already served, but there was no wine on the table yet. Ethan immediately called Duke and asked him to bring up the Macallan and 2 cartons of Parliament cigarettes from the car. A while later, Duke and Dan brought the things up. George saw the two of them and hurriedly tried to keep them for lunch and a few drinks. Duke scratched his head and smiled. No need, Uncle. You guys drink. We are on duty now and have to drive later, so we won't drink. You guys enjoy. The Drake brothers were very principled. It was the discipline developed in the army. If they drank now and had an accident while driving later, they would really be letting down the job. The brothers insisted on waiting in the car. George couldn't persuade them, so he took 2 bags of candy and melon seeds to give to them. Ethan smiled. Uncle George, don't worry about it. The brothers are very responsible. Sometimes even I can't persuade them. George smiled. Being serious and responsible is good. Such talent is reliable. Enough said, come, sit down and drink. Ethan, you have to drink a few more cups with me today. Huh? Ethan laughed. No problem. Whatever Uncle George says goes. Everyone took their seats and began to eat and drink, raising glasses to celebrate the new year. After a while, there was a knock on the door. Lily went to open the door. Seeing the visitor, she smiled. Sarah is here? You came just in time. We're eating. Come eat together. Standing at the door was a young couple. The woman was dressed fashionably and appropriately. The man wore round-frame glasses and a black jacket, looking refined, dressed like a typical cadre. Sarah Young smiled obediently. Hey, Annie, Happy New Year. Came specifically to pay New Year's respects today. Also, yesterday, I made plans with Cousin Grace to go shopping after lunch. By the way, Annie, let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Paul King. The young man named Paul King bowed and greeted. Auntie, Happy New Year. Good, come eat together. Lily greeted warmly. Sarah and Paul carried New Year's gifts inside to greet the elders. Seeing Sarah, Grace hugged the girl happily. Whenever Grace came back to her hometown, she would find her to hang out. They had a good relationship. Sarah noticed Ethan next to Grace and asked very sensibly, "Cousin, this handsome guy must be my cousin-in-law, right?" "Huh." Grace blushed and spat. "What cousin-in-law? No way." Ethan stood up and laughed happily. "Hey, cousin, you really know how to talk. Here's an envelope for you. Say a little more next time." Ethan took out a thick white envelope from his pocket and handed it to her. "Ah, thank you, cousin-in-law." Sarah took the envelope and shouted even louder. Apart from the shy and annoyed Grace, laughter filled the room. Everyone was amused. Sarah felt the envelope. It felt quite thick. There should be at least $50 in there. This cousin-in-law was quite generous. She then introduced her boyfriend, Paul King, to everyone. Paul took out a pack of Parliaments and distributed cigarettes to everyone. He handed one to Ethan. He smiled. "Here, cousin-in-law, have a lucky smoke." He sized up Ethan. Ethan seemed easygoing and looked very young, definitely younger than him. "Thanks, let's get lucky together." Ethan smiled, accepting the cigarette with both hands. Except for subordinates or close friends, accepting a cigarette with both hands was a courtesy to strangers and also a humble attitude. Paul smiled. This kid was all right, knew how to behave. However, I'm 26, and he looks a few years younger than me, but I still have to call him cousin-in-law. Feels a bit weird. He pulled up a chair and sat next to Ethan, laughing. "Cousin-in-law, I'll sit next to you. Easier to drink." Let the two women sit together and chat about their stuff, all right? Ethan smiled. Sure, no problem. People who were familiar right off the bat were relatively easy to get along with. And judging from the details of his conduct, Paul also knew how to behave and had manners. Dealing with such optimistic and extroverted people was generally a pleasant thing. After sitting down, Paul poured wine for Ethan, clinked glasses a few times, and the conversation opened up, chatting about work and making money. It turned out Paul worked at the comptroller's office in town. He was a clerk. His family ran a lumber processing business, was well off, and had some connections in town. After a few rounds, Paul had drunk quite a bit of liquor. His whole face was red, and he was a bit tipsy. He grabbed Ethan's hand and declared boldly, "Cousin-in-law, one word. If you run into trouble in Big Rock, you can come to me. Although my position isn't high, my uncle is a captain in the police department, and I have a few cousins in the town administration. I dare say, we don't stir up trouble, but we are absolutely not afraid of trouble. You can rest assured on that. Do you believe me?" Seeing he was almost drunk, Ethan laughed along. All right, I believe you." Thinking Ethan still didn't believe him, Paul put one arm around Ethan's shoulder, leaned in, and whispered, "I know you might not believe it, but I'll tell you a top secret. Don't spread it yet. You know the Wallace family of Big Rock? The boss who runs the Wallace Hotel in the town center. Pretty powerful, right? Just yesterday, didn't my uncle handle them anyway?" Paul patted Ethan's shoulder, looking mysterious. This was news he only found out last night. The Wallace father and son were arrested, and many people in the town administration were implicated. The entire Big Rock system was in chaos, precarious. News that only people within the system knew was rarely known to outsiders. Seeing Ethan came back from out of town, he figured Ethan definitely didn't know these things. He smiled smugly and continued, "Cousin-in-law, to tell you the truth, this matter has quite a big impact in Big Rock. Many people might fall. Just drinking privately, since you're family, I can reveal a little to you. Outside, in front of others, I wouldn't tell them these things." Ethan was somewhat amused and said, "Is that so? It seems your news is quite well informed." Praised, Paul showed a satisfied smile on his face. "Cousin-in-law, not to brag, but in my unit, my news is the most well informed. I know every wind and grass movement in Big Rock. The Wallaces used to be so arrogant in Big Rock, right? Wasn't it just because Nolan Wallace made some money and found few backers? Now, while the Wallaces have fallen, the backers have fallen too. Big Rock has to be reshuffled. Did you know my uncle arrested the Wallace father and son and made a great contribution? Heard he's going to be promoted after the new year, Ethan smiled casually. "Oh, really? Then congratulations. That's a good thing." Paul took out a cigarette, handed one to Ethan, and said happily, "Absolutely. If you develop or work in Big Rock in the future, I'll introduce you to him later. In the future, we are all relatives, our own people. No need to be polite with me." Ethan nodded and smiled. "Okay, thanks in advance then." Paul said boldly, "Hey, don't say thanks between our own people. Speak up if there's anything. My old man has been doing lumber business in Big Rock for so many years. Not bragging. He can make this number a year." Paul held up 5 fingers and waved them in front of Ethan. Ethan was a bit surprised. Lumber business making $5 million? Paul laughed. "At least $50,000 a year. When business is good, he can make $70,000 or $80,000 a year. It's all because of the town connections looking out for us. Otherwise, could we get this big? Our family actually has quite a few connections in town. There will definitely be opportunities to get rich in the future too. However, to maintain these connections, we have to spend 10 or 20,000 a year more or less. Ethan laughed dumbly. I see. It seems your dad really knows how to do business. Paul lit his cigarette, then patted Ethan's shoulder, saying earnestly, cousin-in-law, doing business in a small place is different from the big city. Small places pay more attention to connections. Only with connections can things get done, and business can prosper. This principle, you have to listen and remember this point. If you do business in the future, cousin-in-law, it will definitely be beneficial. Sarah beside him nudged him with her elbow and rolled her eyes. Paul, what big principles are you preaching to people again? Paul said seriously, Hey, you're right. It really is a big principle. I'm teaching cousin-in-law to understand some principles. It will definitely be useful for his business in the future. With that, he turned to look at Ethan, burped, put his arm around Ethan's shoulder, leaned in, and said, Cousin-in-law, to be honest, the first time I saw you, I felt you were young and easygoing. If you go out into society, you'll inevitably suffer losses. If you haven't found any opportunities over there, you can come back to Big Rock and roll with me. Come back and roll with you? Ethan twitched the corner of his mouth, shook his head, and laughed. Thanks for the kindness. I'm doing all right in Chicago for now. Paul thought Ethan was just embarrassed, so he leaned in closer and said solemnly, Cousin-in-law, no need to feel embarrassed. We're all family in the future. Supporting each other is what we should do. What are you two whispering about? Come have a drink. George raised his glass to invite them. Paul also raised his glass and laughed. Hey, Uncle George, nothing much. We were just chatting about some stuff. Come, drink. After a meal that lasted over an hour, everyone had eaten and drunk their fill and sat in the living room sofa to rest. Grace ran to Ethan's side, took his arm, and smiled. Stinky Ethan, we agreed. Let's go shopping later. Okay, take a walk while we're at it. Digest the food. Eating so much for the holidays. Be careful of turning into a little piggy. Ethan pinched her nose. Grace wrinkled her nose. If you're the one who will turn into a little piggy. Paul walked over, handed Ethan a tangerine, and said, There's a clothing market nearby. It's quite lively. We could just walk there later. Cousin-in-law, I'll take you to eat some snacks later. Sure. I haven't spent much time back home since I was little, not familiar with this area. Relying on you to lead the way. Ethan took the tangerine and smiled. After agreeing, the four of them went downstairs together and walked to the clothing market on the next street. During the holidays, there were many people on the road. Bicycles and motorcycles weaved through them. People wore Hong Kong-style clothes, having a bit of retro flavor. In Ethan's memory, this was indeed the feeling of the millennium. Pop culture had a great influence. Crossing the road, the group of four arrived at the market. Hey, Paul, Happy New Year. Hello, Paul. Some stall owners in the market greeted Paul, and Paul responded enthusiastically. Hey, cousin-in-law, look, I wasn't bragging, was I? I'm very familiar with this area. In Big Rock, I can still hold it down. Paul laughed confidently. Yeah, definitely holding it down, Ethan complimented. Paul put his arm around Ethan's shoulder, leaned in, and laughed. Cousin-in-law, I feel like I really click with you. If you come back to Big Rock to develop, I can help you pull some projects. Making 10 or 20,000 a year easily is no problem. Just for you. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't bother paying attention. We are relatives. Ethan shook his head and smiled. Forget it. Better not trouble you. Hey, no trouble. What's trouble between our own people? Really? Paul said boldly. Grace and Sarah were shopping in front, while Ethan and Paul followed behind carrying bags. Suddenly, two sedans sped over from the other end of the market. They were fast, honking their horns continuously. Pedestrians scrambled to dodge. Sarah was walking on the outside and didn't react in time. Her coat was caught by the car's side mirror, and she was dragged down, falling to the ground. Crash! A roadside parasol fell down, smashing heavily onto the car, shattering the car's glass window. Motherfucker! BTCH, are you blind? The driver, a man with dyed yellow hair, stuck his head out and shouted abuse at Sarah. Grace hurried to help Sarah up first, glared at him, and scolded, I think you're the one who's blind. Driving so fast in the market. Rushing to be reincarnated. The yellow-haired man glared back at Grace and said viciously, FCK, scolding your dad? Who are you talking to? With that, the yellow-haired man angrily pulled open the car door and got out to check the damage to the vehicle. Seeing the windshield smashed and a big dent on the hood, his heart ached. Motherfucker, this is the new car I just bought. Don't you leave. Pay up immediately. The blond man turned and shouted at Sarah. Grace was about to stand up for her cousin when suddenly Ethan's figure appeared in front of her. Grace, let me negotiate. Ethan said calmly, Buddy, You were driving too fast and hit the person first. Then the umbrella fell. Why should we pay you? That's not appropriate, is it? How is it not appropriate? The car was smashed because of her. The yellow-haired man clamored. Several men got out of the car, and the car behind also stopped. 5 men got out and swarmed over, staring at Ethan with threatening looks in their eyes. Hey, what are you doing? You hit my girlfriend and didn't even apologize? What is this? Really? The angriest was Paul, rushing up to check Sarah's injuries. Sarah, how is it? Are you okay? Sarah shook her head, enduring the pain. And no, I'm okay, just twisted my ankle. Outrageous. Paul was furious, turning around and pointing at the yellow-haired man, cursing. How do you drive? Tyrannical behavior. The yellow-haired man stared at Paul and sneered. Yo, isn't this Paul King? Look closely. Who the FCK are you talking to? Paul looked closely, and his face changed drastically. It's Luke. Luke Hart. This. Paul was speechless for a moment, an awkward look on his face. He recognized the yellow-haired man in front of him. It was Luke Hart, the son of the town office director, Luther Hart. He had seen him a few times before, but didn't know him well. But now he was very nervous because this Luke Hart's dad was the office director. This position could be said to be the power center of the town administration, absolutely not someone he could afford to offend. Is this f***ing your girl? Huh. Luke stepped forward 2 steps, patted Paul on the shoulder, and asked coldly. Yes, Luke. Really sorry. There might be a misunderstanding here. Paul wiped the sweat from his forehead and laughed apologetically. At this moment, he truly looked cowed, offending Luke Hart. He might even lose his job. Misunderstanding my ass? FCK. Luke slapped him backhand across the face. Paul was dumbfounded. He didn't expect Luke to have such a violent temper. Ethan frowned and immediately stepped forward to scold. Why are you hitting people? So what if I hit him? Luke looked up, staring viciously at Ethan. The group of men behind Luke immediately surrounded them, all staring at Ethan. Paul quickly grabbed Ethan's arm, pulled it back a few steps, and whispered urgently. Cousin-in-law, he is Director Hart's son. We can't offend him. Forget it, don't tangle with him. How about we just pay some money? Otherwise, Director Hart will make life difficult for us. He really didn't want Ethan to have a conflict with Luke over this. The impact would be significant. Ethan glanced at him and said calmly, just let it go. You still want to pay them. Didn't you say you hold it down? Kaut so fast. Paul laughed awkwardly and whispered, This isn't the situation different. Cousin-in-law, really cool down. Don't bicker with Luke. While the two were talking, Grace suddenly shouted, What are you doing? Keep your hands off. Ethan's heart skipped a beat, and he turned to look. But it was too late. He saw Grace already executing a shoulder throw, slamming Luke heavily onto the ground. Paul grabbed his hair with both hands, his face pale. Crap, it's over. Once hands were thrown, the nature of the situation changed. This wasn't a matter of paying money anymore. Over, my future is over. Grace's move happened in an instant. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded, looking at Grace dumbstruck. This girl was too fierce. Luke, the group of brothers behind Luke quickly came up to help him up. Luke grinned in pain and cursed. Motherfucker, I'll let you drink with me, fine, but now it's not fine. Stupid BTCH, come here. Luke pointed at Grace, signaling Grace to come over obediently, otherwise he would make a move. Suddenly, a soul appeared in front of his eyes. Bang! Ethan kicked him in the face, spat, and said indifferently, Curse one more time, and I'll cut out your tongue. This kick stunned Paul too. Holy crap. Cousin-in-law, do you need to be so fierce too? Taking a step back opens up the sky and ocean. Doing this, how can I hang out in Big Rock in the future? Completely finished. Even my uncle can't salvage the situation. Uncle still has to look at Director Hart's face. See, cousin-in-law, don't. Paul stepped forward to pull Ethan. But Luke's group of brothers couldn't hold back anymore. They rushed up to attack Ethan. 2 of them swung folding stools from the side, aiming to smash Ethan's head. Just then, 2 figures flashed out. Crack, crack. 2 loud bangs rang out in succession. Duke and Dan kicked the incoming folding stools apart. The wooden boards shattered in the air. Holy SHD. The surrounding onlookers let out a cry of surprise in unison, all watching dumbfounded. Kicking folding stool boards to pieces directly? How much strength did that take? The 2 minions holding the folding stools were also dumbfounded on the spot, holding the remaining wood in their hands at a loss. Duke and Dan shouted in unison and took the initiative to meet them, attacking Luke's brothers. The Drake brothers' movements were clean and efficient, using close combat techniques from the Special Forces. 1 punch and 1 kick took down 2 people, sweeping through like splitting bamboo, unstoppable. In just a few breaths, Luke's 8 brothers were all beaten down. Luke was dumbfounded. Paul was even more dumbfounded. Who were these two beasts? Where did they pop out from? This skill was too fierce. Hee, Mr. Ford, just the last one left. Duke moved his neck and said respectfully to Ethan. Paul froze. Mr. Ford, could it be that these two beasts were cousin-in-law's people? Bodyguards? Holy crap. No way. Cousin-in-law could afford bodyguards. At this time, sirens came from behind the crowd. 2 patrol cars drove up and stopped nearby. A group of police officers got out. Paul saw a familiar figure among the officers getting out and hurriedly shouted, Uncle, Uncle! Uncle is here. Hope there's some wiggle room. Hearing the voice, Holt turned his head to look at Paul, and at the same time saw Ethan. His face changed. Holt hurriedly walked over quickly. Paul was about to step forward to talk, but Holt ignored him directly, walked up to Ethan, and bowed politely. Mr. Ford, are you okay? You're not hurt, are you? Paul. What was the situation? Uncle and cousin-in-law knew each other, and Uncle's attitude toward him was so good. Could it be? He had a vague guess in his heart. Cousin-in-law was hiding his true self. I'm Fine. These people are really too much of a holies. They hit my friend with their car, demanded we pay money, and tried to hit us. Too excessive. Officer Holt, I hope you can uphold justice. Ethan kept a straight face and spoke seriously. Definitely, definitely. Really sorry. Big Rock is a small place, a bit chaotic. Rest assured, I will definitely strictly crack down on public order in the future. Holt said solemnly. Saying that, Holt turned his head and shouted, Take all these punks back for investigation. Holt, you dare. My dad is Luther Hart. Luke shouted hurriedly, bringing up his old man. Holt strode over, walked up to him, and whispered, Luke, bringing up your dad is useless this time. Do you know who you offended? It's Mr. Ford of West Ford Group, the one who took down the Wallace family. The investigation team hasn't left yet. Your dad is just waiting to lose his hat. Hearing this, Luke's face changed drastically. What? This kid was the one who took down the Wallace family. Luke naturally heard about yesterday's events. The Wallace family had offended a dragon crossing the river, the boss of West Ford Group. That West Ford Group boss was close to the mayor of Fulton City, and the mayor even came to Big Rock personally to supervise the investigation team. Luke's legs went soft, and he instantly paralyzed on the ground. It was over. Take them all away. Holt waved his hand, and the police officers took Luke and all his brothers on the ground away. After clearing these people, Paul immediately went up to find Holt. You uncle, we're okay, right? Paul asked nervously. Fine, what could happen? By the way, Mr. Ford, Holt asked curiously. Oh, Ethan. He's cousin Sarah's boyfriend's cousin. I mean, Grace's boyfriend. He's a relative. Paul answered immediately. Hearing this, Holt instantly revealed a happy smile. Going around in circles, I didn't expect it to be family after all. Then I count as half a relative of Mr. Ford too. Paul was stunned. He didn't expect Holt to be so happy about this. He was even more curious in his heart and whispered, Uncle, what was cousin-in-law's background? Holt asked in surprise. You don't know? He's the boss of Chicago's West Ford Group. Heard he's worth over $1 billion. The Wallace family just happened to offend Mr. Ford. Hee, you know the outcome. Paul's heart instantly set off monstrous waves, shocked, dumbfounded. Holy crap. The one who took down the Wallace family was actually cousin-in-law. Cousin-in-law was a group boss worth over $1 billion. He remembered the words he said at the wine table earlier and felt his head was about to explode. Holy crap. Turns out the clown was me. He wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into now. It was really too shameful to face anyone. Holt didn't know why he was so shocked. He patted his shoulder and laughed. Get closer to your cousin-in-law later. Build more of a relationship. Don't say I didn't remind you. I'm telling you, your cousin-in-law has huge energy straight to Fulton City. All right, I'm going to process this batch of kids. Going back first. After Holt left, Paul was still in shock to the point of being dumbfounded, hadn't recovered yet, standing stupidly in place. Holt walked up to Ethan, hesitated for a moment, and said, Mr. Ford, is it convenient to step aside for a chat? Regarding the Wallace family matter, I might need to consult your opinion.